I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who'd walk away from everything she built. But then again, I never thought my daughter's husband would raise his hand to me in front of 300 people while hymns were still echoing off the walls. My name is Patricia Drummond, and I'm 71 years old. I've survived a husband's death, raised 3 children alone, built a business from nothing, and buried more dreams than most people ever dare to dream. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the sound of Ryan Mitchell's palm connecting with my face during the announcements at Covenant Grace Church on a Sunday morning in April. I'm telling you this story because someone needs to hear it. Someone out there is being disrespected, diminished, made to feel small by people who should be grateful for every breath you give them. And if that's you, I want you to listen close. I want you to hear what I did next. But first, let me take you back. Let me show you how a woman who gave everything ended up with a stinging cheek and a church full of gasping witnesses. Before we go any further, I want you to do something for me. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Are you in Texas like me? California? Maybe you're watching from another country entirely? I want to know who's listening. And if this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, hit that subscribe button. You're going to want to hear how this ends. Trust me. There are more stories like this one waiting for you in the description box below. Stories of women who refused to disappear. Check them out when we're done here. Now, where was I? Oh yes. The slap. The thing about betrayal is that it rarely arrives in a single moment. It builds like water behind a dam, pressure mounting, cracks forming, until one day the whole structure just gives way. For me, that dam burst on April 14, 2024, but the cracks had been forming for 3 years. It started when my daughter Jessica married Ryan. She was 42, he was 38, and I was genuinely happy for her. Jessica had been through a difficult divorce 7 years prior, and watching her smile again, watching her plan a wedding with actual joy in her eyes, felt like witnessing a resurrection. Ryan seemed perfect on paper. He was a financial advisor with a respected firm in Houston. He drove a Tesla, wore expensive suits, and spoke about investment portfolios the way some men talk about football. I should have known better. My late husband, William, used to say that any man who talks more about money than meaning is a man without a soul. But I was so desperate to see Jessica happy that I ignored every red flag. I ignored how Ryan's eyes would glaze over when she talked about her teaching job. I ignored how he'd check his phone during family dinners. I ignored the way he'd subtly correct her grammar in front of others, passing it off as playful teasing. The first Rael warning came 6 months after the wedding. Jessica called me on a Thursday evening, and I could hear something brittle in her voice, like glass about to shatter. She told me they were having a few financial challenges, and asked if I could help with their mortgage payment. Just this once, she said. Just until Ryan's commission check came through. I wrote the check without hesitation. What kind of mother wouldn't? The second request came 2 months later. Then another. By the end of year 1, I'd given them $43,000. I kept a ledger, not because I expected repayment, but because I needed to know if I was helping or enabling. My accountant, Vernon, a black man in his 60s who'd been doing my books since 1987, sat me down in his office with concern etched across his face. "Pat," he said, using the name only my closest friends could use, "you're hemorrhaging money into a hole that's getting deeper, not shallower. Have you asked what's really going on?" I hadn't. Because I was afraid of the answer. The truth, when it finally emerged, was worse than I'd imagined. Ryan had a gambling problem. Not the casual kind where you drop $100 in Vegas and call it entertainment. The kind where you're taking cash advances on 6 credit cards and lying about working late when you're really at underground poker games in warehouse districts. Jessica discovered it when a man showed up at their door demanding $12,000 that Ryan owed him. She called me sobbing, and I drove 40 minutes from my home in Sugar Land to their house in the Heights, my hands shaking so badly I nearly rear-ended a truck at a stoplight. When I arrived, Jessica's eyes were swollen, her face blotchy. Ryan sat on their leather couch, leather I'd helped pay for, looking like a scolded child, not a grown man who'd gambled away their savings and put his wife in danger. "I'll handle it," I told them. And I did. I paid off Ryan's debts. All of them. $67,000 in total. But I made them both promise something. Ryan would attend Gamblers Anonymous. Jessica would have full access to their finances. And they would pay me back over time, not because I needed the money, but because Ryan needed to understand accountability. He agreed. He looked me in the eye, took my hands in his, and said, "Patricia, I'll never forget what you've done for us. You've saved our marriage. You've saved my life." I believed him. God help me, I believed him. For about 8 months, things seemed better. Ryan went to meetings. Jessica seemed lighter. They sent me a beautiful flower arrangement on Mother's Day with a card that read, "To the woman who holds this family together." I kept that card on my refrigerator, held by a magnet shaped like Texas. Then my own world started crumbling. I'd been running Drummond Property Management for 32 years. My husband and I had started it together in 1992 with 3 rental properties and a dream. After William died of a heart attack in 2003, I'd grown it to 47 properties across the Houston metro area. It was my pride, my purpose, my proof that a widow could not only survive but thrive. But by late 2023, I was tired. Bone tired. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. I was 70 years old, dealing with difficult tenants, maintenance emergencies at 2 in the morning, and property taxes that seemed to increase every quarter. My son, James, lived in Oregon with his wife and twin boys. My youngest daughter, Monica, was a traveling nurse who was rarely in the same state for more than 3 months. Jessica was the only one nearby, and I found myself thinking about legacy, about what I'd leave behind, about who would care for me if I got sick. One evening after church, I sat Jessica down at my kitchen table, the same oak table where William and I had made every major decision of our lives, and I told her my plan. I wanted to simplify my life. I was going to sell most of the properties and keep just a few choice ones for income. The rest of the proceeds, along with my existing savings, would be divided 3 ways eventually. But in the meantime, I wanted to do something for her and Ryan. I told her I was going to buy them their dream home. Not as a loan this time. As a gift. A real, permanent, beautiful home where they could build their life. Maybe even give me grandchildren someday. A place that would be theirs free and clear. Jessica cried. She actually cried and hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. She said I didn't have to do that. She said it was too much. "You're my daughter," I told her. "This is what mothers do." I found the perfect property 3 weeks later. A stunning 4-bedroom house in Garden Oaks with original hardwood floors, a completely renovated kitchen, and a backyard with mature oak trees that created a canopy of shade. The price was $640,000. I paid cash. But here's the thing, and this is important, I put the deed in my name. I told Jessica this was temporary. Once Ryan had been clean from gambling for 2 full years, once I was confident they were stable, I'd transfer the deed to both of them. It was a safety measure, I explained. Protection for everyone. Jessica understood. She agreed. She thanked me with tears in her eyes. Ryan's reaction was different. He smiled and said all the right things, but his eyes held something cold. Something calculating. I felt it then, a whisper of unease in my gut, but I dismissed it. I was being paranoid, I told myself. I was being an overprotective mother. They moved into the house in January 2024. I helped them unpack, hung curtains, planted flowers in the beds out front. I bought them a housewarming gift, a framed print that said "Home is where your story begins." Jessica hung it in the entryway where everyone could see it. For 3 months, everything seemed perfect. They hosted a Super Bowl party. They invited me for Sunday dinners. Ryan even started calling me Mom, which felt strange coming from his mouth but which Jessica seemed to love. Then came April 14th. It was Founders' Day at Covenant Grace Church, a celebration of the congregation's 85th anniversary. I'd been a member for 43 years, since before Jessica was born. I'd served on the finance committee, organized the food pantry, taught Sunday school to 2 generations of children. This was my church home, my community, my spiritual family. The service was beautiful. Pastor Elkins, a gentle man with silver hair and a voice like warm honey, preached about legacy and faithfulness. The choir sang "Great is Thy Faithfulness," and I felt tears on my cheeks because that hymn was William's favorite. I could almost feel him beside me in the pew, his hand covering mine the way it used to. After the sermon, Pastor Elkins invited members to share testimonies about what the church meant to them. Several people spoke. Then Jessica stood up, and my heart swelled with pride. She walked to the microphone, and for a moment she just looked out at the congregation, smiling. "I want to thank my mother," she said, and I felt every eye in the sanctuary turn toward me. "My mom has been the most generous, loving person I've ever known. She's sacrificed so much for me, for our whole family. And recently she did something that changed our lives. She bought us a house. Our dream home. Free and clear. The congregation murmured appreciatively. A few people near me reached over to squeeze my hand. I felt my face flush with a mixture of pride and embarrassment. But then Jessica said something that made my blood run cold. It's not just any house. It's a $640,000 mansion in Garden Oaks. And she gave it to us outright. The deed is in our name now, and we're so grateful. My stomach dropped. The deed wasn't in their name. The deed was in my name. I'd been clear about that. Crystal clear. I looked at Ryan, who was sitting next to Jessica's empty seat. He was staring straight ahead, his jaw clenched, and suddenly I understood. She didn't know. She thought I'd transferred the deed. Someone had told her I had. Someone had lied. Pastor Elkins smiled and started to say something about generosity being a gift from God, but I couldn't let this continue. I stood up, my legs shaky, and I said, "Jessica, honey, can I talk to you for just a moment?" The sanctuary went quiet. Jessica looked confused but nodded. I started moving toward the aisle, and that's when Ryan stood up. He moved fast, intercepting me before I could reach Jessica. "Sit down, Patricia," he said, his voice low but hard. "I just need to clarify something," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You need to sit down and be quiet." People were staring now. The air felt thick, suffocating. I could see Pastor Elkins looking uncertain, like he wasn't sure whether to intervene. "Ryan, the deed is still in my name," I said, loud enough that people nearby could hear. "I never transferred it. We agreed I wouldn't until—" He cut me off. "You're a liar." The word hit me like a physical blow. A liar. Me. The woman who'd saved his marriage, paid his debts, bought them a house. "I have the paperwork at home," I said, my voice shaking now. "I can show you. I can show everyone." "You're trying to control us," Ryan said, and his voice was rising. "You're trying to manipulate my wife by dangling this house over our heads. You said it was ours. You said it was a gift. Now you're trying to take it back." "That's not true," I said. "I never." "You're a manipulative, controlling old woman who can't let go." The sanctuary was dead silent now. 300 people watching this unfold like a car crash they couldn't look away from. I saw Jessica standing frozen at the front, her face pale. I took a step toward her, wanting to explain, wanting to fix this misunderstanding. But Ryan moved in front of me, blocking my path. "Get out of my way," I said quietly. "Make me," he replied. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I wasn't thinking at all. Maybe 50 years of taking care of everyone else just boiled over. I reached out to push past him, my hand barely touching his chest. And that's when he slapped me. The sound cracked through the sanctuary like a gunshot. My head snapped to the side. Pain exploded across my cheek. I staggered backward, and someone behind me, I think it was Deacon Morris, caught me before I fell. For a moment, time stopped. I could taste blood from where my teeth had cut the inside of my cheek. My ear was ringing. And all I could see was Ryan standing there, his hand still raised, his face twisted with rage. Then the sanctuary erupted. People shouting. Someone screaming. Pastor Elkins rushing down from the pulpit. Jessica crying out, "Ryan! Oh my God, Ryan, what did you do?" But I didn't hear any of it clearly. All I could hear was the rushing of blood in my ears and a single thought repeating in my mind like a mantra. This is what gratitude looks like. I touched my face. My fingers came away bloody. Deacon Morris was asking if I was okay, if I needed to sit down, if someone should call the police. But I just shook my head. I pulled away from him, gathered my purse from the pew, and walked down that center aisle with my head high and my cheek burning. Every eye followed me. Every mouth hung open. But I didn't look back. Not at Ryan. Not at Jessica. Not at the congregation that had been my family for 4 decades. I walked out into the April sunshine, got into my car, and drove home. My hands didn't start shaking until I was in my garage with the door closed behind me. That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment Patricia Drummond, the woman who'd spent 71 years being generous and accommodating and self-sacrificing, decided that enough was enough. I walked into my house, went straight to my bedroom, and pulled out the lockbox from my closet where I kept all my important documents. The deed to the Garden Oaks house was right there, my name printed in clear black letters. I stood in my bedroom, holding that piece of paper, and I made a decision. Not out of anger, though God knows I was angry. Not out of spite, though I'm human enough to feel that too. But out of something deeper. Out of a realization that I'd been so busy trying to be a good mother that I'd forgotten to be a strong woman. I picked up my phone and called Vernon, my accountant. He answered on the second ring. Vernon, I said, and my voice sounded strange even to my own ears, calm, measured, determined. I need you to list the Garden Oaks property for sale. As soon as possible. And I need you to help me book a trip. Somewhere far away. Somewhere beautiful. Somewhere they'll never think to look for me. There was a pause on the other end. Then Vernon said, Pat, what happened? I'll tell you later, I said. Right now, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Always, he said. I hung up and looked at myself in the mirror above my dresser. My cheek was swelling, turning purple. There was dried blood at the corner of my mouth. But my eyes looked different. They looked alive in a way they hadn't in years. I was about to do something that would shock my entire family. I was about to walk away from everything I'd built in Houston. I was about to disappear. And I wasn't going to feel guilty about it. Not one bit. The first person who called was Monica. My phone started ringing at 2:47 p.m., less than 3 hours after I'd left the church. I was sitting at my kitchen table with an ice pack pressed against my face and a cup of tea going cold in front of me. I let it ring. She called again 5 minutes later. Then again. On the fourth call, I answered. Mom. Her voice was frantic. Mom, oh my God, are you okay? Jessica just called me. She said Ryan hit you. She said it happened at church. In front of everyone. Mom, talk to me. I took a slow breath. I'm fine, sweetheart. You're not fine. Nobody's fine after something like that. Where are you? Do you need me to come home? I can catch a flight from Denver tonight. No, I said firmly. I don't need you to come home. I need you to let me handle this my way. There was silence on the other end. Monica had always been my fierce one, the daughter who'd inherited William's fire. What does that mean? She asked carefully. It means I'm not going to be bullied or disrespected in my own community by a man I saved from financial ruin. It means I'm done being the family doormat. Mom, that doesn't sound like you. Maybe it should have sounded like me a long time ago. I could hear her breathing, processing. What are you going to do? I'm going to take care of myself for once. And Monica, I need you to not tell Jessica where I am or what I'm planning. Can you do that for me? Another pause. Then, quietly, she's still your daughter, Mom. She's probably terrified right now. She's 45 years old and married to a man who thinks it's acceptable to strike a 71-year-old woman. Her terror is not my responsibility anymore. I heard Monica suck in a breath. Okay, she said finally. Okay. But you call me if you need anything. Anything at all. I will, baby. I love you. I love you too. I hung up and immediately turned my phone on Do Not Disturb. I wasn't ready for the flood of calls I knew would be coming. Not from Jessica. Not from church members. Not from anyone who wanted to smooth this over, to convince me that family comes first, that forgiveness is divine, that I should be the bigger person. I'd been the bigger person my whole life. Look where it got me. Vernon arrived at 5 p.m. with a briefcase and a look of controlled fury on his face. He'd been at church that morning. He'd seen everything. He set his briefcase down on my kitchen table and pulled me into a hug that lasted a long time, careful not to press against my injured face. That boy should be in jail, he said when he finally let go. He should be, I agreed. But pressing charges would mean police reports, court dates, months of my life consumed by lawyers and testimony. It would mean watching Jessica torn apart between her husband and her mother. I'm too old and too tired for that battle, Vernon. I'm going to fight this my way. Vernon studied my face. He'd known me long enough to recognize when my mind was made up. Tell me what you need. I pulled out the deed to the Garden Oaks house and spread it on the table. This property is mine. Legally, completely mine. I want it listed tomorrow morning. I don't care if we have to price it competitively. I want it sold fast. Vernon nodded, making notes. What about your daughter and her husband? They're living there. Texas law requires I give them written notice before eviction proceedings. I'll have a lawyer draft it. They'll have 30 days to vacate. This is going to get ugly, Pat. It already is ugly. I'm just deciding what kind of ugly it's going to be. Vernon opened his briefcase and pulled out a file folder. I took the liberty of researching some travel options, like you asked. I have a few suggestions. There's a villa rental in Tuscany, a cottage in the Cotswolds, a beachfront property in Costa Rica. All of them are available for long-term rental, 3 months minimum. I looked through the printouts he'd prepared, photographs of beautiful places where women like me could disappear and reinvent themselves. A stone cottage surrounded by rolling green hills. A white villa with blue shutters overlooking a vineyard. A tropical house with walls that opened completely to the ocean breeze. The Costa Rica property, I said, pointing to the beach house. That one. It's available starting May 1st. That's 2 weeks away. Perfect. Book it for 6 months. Vernon's eyebrows rose. 6 months. Or longer. I haven't decided yet. What I do know is that I'm not going to be here while that house sells, while Jessica and Ryan figure out their next move, while everyone at church whispers about poor Patricia and what a terrible situation this is. I'm going to be somewhere beautiful, drinking coffee on a veranda, watching the ocean, and not thinking about any of them. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you sacrificed everything for, you know exactly how I felt in that moment. It's not just anger. It's not just hurt. It's a kind of clarity, sharp and cold, that cuts through all the guilt and obligation you've been carrying. I want you to understand something. I wasn't running away. I was running toward something. Toward myself. Vernon started working on the logistics. He called a realtor he trusted, explained the situation in vague terms, and had the listing scheduled for the next morning. He called a property lawyer who owed him a favor and arranged for eviction paperwork to be drafted and served by Wednesday. He booked my flight to Costa Rica for April 30th and handled the villa rental agreements. While he worked, I went through my house room by room, deciding what to pack and what to leave behind. It felt surreal, like I was preparing for my own funeral, sorting through a lifetime of accumulated things and determining what actually mattered. Wedding photos from 1975. William's reading glasses, which I'd kept in a drawer for 20 years. Jessica's baby shoes, bronze-plated and frozen in time. I left most of it. I packed 3 suitcases, practical clothes, a few pieces of jewelry, my laptop, and a leather journal William had given me on our 10th anniversary that I'd never written in because I was always too busy taking care of everyone else. At 9 p.m., Vernon finished his work and closed his briefcase. It's done, he said. The house will be listed at 6 a.m. tomorrow. The lawyer will serve papers at noon on Wednesday. Your flight leaves at 8 a.m. on the 30th from Houston Intercontinental. You'll have a car waiting for you at Liberia Airport in Costa Rica. The property manager will meet you at the villa with keys and a welcome packet. Thank you, Vernon. You don't have to thank me. You know I'd do anything for you. He paused, his dark eyes serious. But Pat, I have to ask. Are you sure about this? Leaving without talking to Jessica? Without trying to fix things? I touched my swollen cheek. The ice pack had helped, but it was still tender, still angry. There's nothing to fix. Ryan showed me exactly who he is. Jessica chose to believe his lies about the deed instead of asking me directly. They've been living off my generosity for years without gratitude or respect. I'm done fixing things for people who keep breaking them. Vernon nodded slowly. Then I have one more thing for you. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a sealed envelope. This is a letter of authorization allowing me to manage all your financial affairs while you're gone. It includes access to your accounts, authority to handle the property sale, and power to make decisions about your other rental properties. If you're really doing this, you need to be able to stay gone as long as you want without worrying about logistics. I took the envelope and signed the papers inside without hesitation. Vernon had been managing my money for decades. I trusted him more than I trusted my own children at that moment, which was a painful realization but a true one. After Vernon left, I sat in my living room in the dark, listening to the house settle around me. This house where I'd raised 3 children. Where William had died in his sleep next to me. Where I'd celebrated birthdays and Christmases and graduations. where I'd cried through grief and laughed through joy and built a life that felt meaningful. My phone was still on Do Not Disturb, but I could see the notifications piling up. 37 missed calls. 62 text messages. I didn't read them. Not yet. I wasn't ready for the guilt trips, the manipulation, the desperate pleas that I knew would be waiting for me. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine, a nice Cabernet that William and I had been saving for a special occasion that never came, and I sat at my kitchen table and wrote a letter. Not to Jessica. Not to Ryan. But to myself. A promise. I, Patricia and Drummond, promise that I will stop apologizing for taking up space. I will stop shrinking myself to make others comfortable. I will stop giving pieces of myself to people who don't value them. I will stop believing that my worth is measured by how much I sacrifice. Starting today, I choose myself. Not out of selfishness, but out of survival. I folded the letter and put it in my purse where I'd see it every day. Then I went to bed. My last night in this house for who knew how long. Maybe forever. I slept better than I had in years. The listing went live at 6 a.m., just as Vernon had promised. I knew because my phone exploded at 6:03 with a call from Jessica. I was already awake, had been since 5 a.m., drinking coffee and watching the sunrise through my kitchen window. I let it ring. She called again. And again. At 6:15, she started texting. Mom, please answer your phone. We need to talk. The house is listed for sale. How is it listed? You said it was ours. Mom, please. Ryan is freaking out. He says we're going to be homeless. You can't do this to us. This is our home. I turned my phone face down and made myself breakfast. Scrambled eggs with cheese. Toast with butter and strawberry jam. Orange juice. A normal breakfast on a morning that felt anything but normal. At noon, just as planned, a process server arrived at the Garden Oaks house and handed Ryan the eviction notice. I knew because Jessica called me 4 to 7 times between noon and 1 p.m. When I finally answered, she was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. How could you do this? She screamed. How could you just throw us out? We're your family. Jessica, the deed has always been in my name. You knew that. Or you should have known that if Ryan hadn't lied to you about it. He didn't lie. You're lying. You said it was ours. I said I would transfer it to you once Ryan had been clean for 2 years. It's been less than 1 year, and frankly, after what he did to me yesterday, that transfer is never going to happen. He apologized. He feels terrible. He apologized. I laughed, a bitter sound that surprised me. He slapped me in front of 300 people and he apologized? Well, that makes everything better, doesn't it? Mom, please. We don't have anywhere to go. We can't afford rent. You're going to make us homeless. You have 30 days to figure it out. The same 30 days the law requires me to give you. You're both adults with jobs. You'll manage. I hate you, she whispered. I hate you so much right now. The words should have hurt. A year ago, they would have destroyed me. But standing in my kitchen with my suitcases already half-packed, with a plane ticket to paradise in my purse, I felt nothing. Or not nothing. I felt free. I'm sorry you feel that way, I said calmly. I love you, Jessica. I always will. But I won't be disrespected anymore. Not by Ryan. Not by you. Not by anyone. I hung up. She called back immediately. I blocked her number. Then I blocked Ryan's number. Then I put my phone in a drawer and spent the rest of the day finishing my packing. Over the next 2 weeks, the story of what happened at Covenant Grace Church spread through Houston like wildfire. I heard about it through Vernon, who heard it from his wife, who heard it from 3 different people at her book club. The congregation was divided. Half thought I was completely justified. Half thought I was a vindictive old woman punishing my daughter for her husband's mistake. Pastor Elkins called and left me a voicemail asking me to come in for counseling. I deleted it. Several church members texted offering support. I thanked them but didn't elaborate. Deacon Morris showed up at my door with a casserole and a concerned expression, and I accepted the casserole but told him I wasn't ready to talk about what happened. I just want you to know, he said before he left, that what Ryan did was wrong. Completely, unforgivably wrong. And a lot of us saw you walk out of there with your head high, And we understood. You don't owe anyone an explanation. That kindness, coming from a man I barely knew beyond Sunday morning handshakes, almost made me cry. Almost. But I'd cried enough. I was done crying. The house had 3 showings in the first week. By the second week, we had 2 offers. Vernon advised me to take the higher one, $635,000, just $5,000 less than I'd paid for it. I accepted it immediately. The buyers wanted a quick closing. I told Vernon to make it happen as fast as legally possible. James, my son in Oregon, called me on day 9. Unlike his sisters, James had always been steady, pragmatic, less emotional. "Mom," he said, "Monica told me what happened. I wish you'd called me yourself. I knew Monica would tell you. I just needed some time." "Are you okay?" That question. Everyone kept asking it. As if okay was a destination you could reach instead of a moving target that shifted every day. "I'm getting there," I said honestly. "What you're doing with the house. Mom, that's pretty extreme." "Is it? My property, my decision." "Yeah, but Jessica's your daughter. And yeah, Ryan messed up, but..." He hit me, James. He struck me across the face hard enough to draw blood. In front of our entire church. And Jessica's first response wasn't to leave him. It wasn't to apologize to me. It was to defend him and demand I give them a house they were never legally entitled to. Silence. Then, quietly, "You're right. I'm sorry. I should have led with that. He hit you, and that's unforgivable. I'm sorry I didn't say that first." "Thank you," I whispered. "So what's the plan? Monica said something about you leaving town." "I'm going to Costa Rica for a while. Maybe a long while. I need distance. I need peace. I need to remember who I am when I'm not being someone's mother or someone's safety net." "How long is a while?" "I don't know yet. As long as it takes." James sighed. "Okay. I get it. But stay in touch. At least let me know you're alive." "I promise. I love you, kiddo." "Love you too, Mom. And for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. It takes guts to walk away from something that's hurting you, even when it's family." That conversation sustained me through the final week. Jessica tried to reach me through Monica, through James, through mutual friends from church. She showed up at my house twice, pounding on the door, begging me to let her in. I watched her through the window, this woman who'd grown inside my body, who I'd nursed and raised and loved with everything in me, and I felt sad. Just sad. Not guilty. Not obligated. Just deeply, profoundly sad that we'd come to this. But I didn't open the door. The house closed on April 28th. Vernon handled everything. The proceeds went into my account, $635,000. With my other savings and investments, I had more than enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life, wherever I wanted to live it. On April 29th, my last day in Houston, I drove to the cemetery where William was buried. I sat by his headstone in the warm spring sun and told him everything. About Ryan. About Jessica. About the decision I'd made. About the woman I was trying to become. "I hope you'd understand," I said aloud, not caring who heard me talking to a gravestone. "I hope you'd tell me I'm doing the right thing. Because I'm scared, William. I'm scared that I'm being selfish. I'm scared that I'm making a mistake. But I'm more scared of staying here and letting them drain every last piece of me until there's nothing left." The wind rustled through the oak trees overhead. A cardinal landed on William's headstone, bright red against the grey stone. I took it as a sign. Or maybe I just needed it to be a sign. That night, I had dinner alone at my favorite restaurant, a little Italian place where William and I used to celebrate anniversaries. I ordered the pasta carbonara and a glass of Chianti, and I toasted to the life I was leaving and the life I was about to begin. My phone buzzed. A text from Vernon, *flight confirmed for 8 a.m. "I'll pick you up at 6. Sleep well, Pat. You're doing the right thing. **. I smiled and finished my wine. Tomorrow, I would board a plane. Tomorrow, I would leave behind 71 years of being who everyone needed me to be. Tomorrow, I would become whoever I wanted to be. And I couldn't wait. Approx. 1,900 words, *. Vernon arrived at 5:45 a.m., 15 minutes early, Because that's the kind of man he was. Reliable. Steady. The kind of friend everyone needs but few people deserve. I was already dressed and waiting, my 3 suitcases lined up by the front door like soldiers ready for deployment. He helped me load them into his Mercedes, moving with the careful efficiency of someone who understood that this moment was bigger than just a trip to the airport. This was an exodus. This was a woman leaving everything she'd known for 7 decades and stepping into terrifying, beautiful uncertainty. "You ready for this?" he asked as we pulled out of my driveway. I looked back at my house one last time. The flower beds I'd planted. The porch where Jessica had taken prom photos. The driveway where William had taught James to ride a bike. All of it swimming in the grey-gold light of early morning. "I don't know if I'm ready," I said honestly. "But I'm doing it anyway." Vernon smiled. "That's the definition of courage, Pat. Not being ready but doing it anyway." The drive to George Bush Intercontinental Airport took 40 minutes. We didn't talk much. Vernon had put on some jazz, Miles Davis, I think, and we just let the music fill the space. Sometimes silence is its own kind of conversation, especially between people who've known each other long enough to understand what words can't say. At the airport, Vernon insisted on helping me check my bags, on walking me all the way to the security checkpoint. Before I went through, he pulled me into a hug that lasted longer than necessary. "You call me if you need anything," he said. "Anything at all. Money transferred. Documents sent. A friendly voice at 2 a.m. I don't care. You call." "I will. Thank you, Vernon. For everything. For believing me. For not trying to talk me out of this." Nobody could talk you out of this. And nobody should. You've earned the right to be selfish. Hell, it's not even selfish. It's survival. I hugged him one more time, then turned and walked through security without looking back. Because if I looked back, I might lose my nerve. And I couldn't afford to lose my nerve now. The flight was uneventful in the best way. I had a window seat, and I spent the first hour watching Texas disappear beneath me, turning into abstract shapes of brown and green, then into clouds, then into nothing but blue sky and possibility. I thought about Jessica waking up in that house, my house, for maybe the 15th to last time. I thought about Ryan probably still in bed, probably hungover, probably not thinking about me at all. And then I stopped thinking about them. I pulled out the leather journal William had given me and opened it to the first blank page. The paper was thick and creamy, expensive. I'd always felt like my thoughts weren't important enough to put in such a beautiful book. But today, I decided my thoughts were exactly important enough. April the 30th, 2024. 33,000 feet above somewhere. I'm leaving. I've left. Past tense, present tense, future tense, it all feels true at once. I'm a woman without a country right now. Not Houston anymore. Not Costa Rica yet. Just, in between. Floating. I keep waiting to feel guilty. That's what I'm supposed to feel, right? I'm supposed to be consumed with guilt for abandoning my daughter in her time of need. Except she's 45 years old and her time of need was created by a man she chose to marry and continue choosing even after he showed her who he really was. I don't feel guilty. I feel light. Like I've been carrying a backpack full of rocks for years and I finally just shrugged it off my shoulders and left it by the side of the road. William, if you can somehow read this from wherever you are, I hope you understand. I hope you're proud of me. I hope you're saying, "About damn time, Patricia." I wrote for almost an hour, my hand cramping, words pouring out that I hadn't known I needed to say. Then I closed the journal and watched a movie, something mindless and romantic that I forgot the moment it ended. Then I slept, dreamless and deep. When I woke, we were descending into Liberia, Costa Rica. I pressed my face to the window and saw it. Endless green, mountain ridges, glimpses of sapphire ocean. It looked like a postcard. It looked like a place where a woman could reinvent herself. The immigration process was easier than I'd expected. My passport was stamped. My bags arrived intact. And there, just beyond customs, was a man holding a sign that said Patricia Drummond in neat handwriting. He was short and tanned with kind eyes and a genuine smile. "Senora Drummond?" he asked. "I am Carlos. I am here to drive you to the villa." His English was accented but clear, and something about his gentle manner put me at ease immediately. He took my bags, loaded them into a clean white SUV, and we set off down roads that turned from paved to gravel to dirt, winding through hills covered in vegetation so lush it looked prehistoric. First time in Costa Rica? Carlos asked. First time, I confirmed. You will love it. The villa where you stay, it is very beautiful. Very peaceful. The beach is right there, and the sunsets. He kissed his fingers. Like painting. That sounds perfect. You are here for vacation? I considered the question. Vacation implied an end date, a return to normal life. I'm here for as long as it takes, I said. Carlos nodded like that made perfect sense. Many people come here to find something. Or to lose something. Costa Rica is good for both. We drove for another 40 minutes, past tiny towns with brightly painted houses, past fruit stands and soccer fields and children walking home from school in uniforms. Everything looked so alive, so vibrant, so far removed from the beige suburbs of Houston. Then we turned down a narrow road, and Carlos said, "We are almost there." The villa appeared like something from a dream. It was a single-story house painted pale yellow with white trim, surrounded by gardens that exploded with flowers I couldn't name. Bougainvillea, I thought. Hibiscus. Other blooms in shades of pink and orange and purple. The front of the house was traditional, but as Carlos led me through the front door, I gasped. The back wall was almost entirely glass, sliding doors that opened onto a stone patio, and beyond that, maybe 50 yards of wild garden sloping down to a beach of golden sand. The Pacific Ocean stretched out to the horizon, rolling waves catching the afternoon sun. "Oh my God," I whispered. Carlos smiled. "I told you. Like painting." He showed me around the villa. 2 bedrooms, both with ceiling fans and windows that opened to catch the breeze. A kitchen with everything I'd need, already stocked with basics, coffee, rice, beans, eggs, fresh fruit. A living room with comfortable furniture and bookshelves full of novels in English and Spanish. And everywhere, that view. The ocean. The endless, beautiful, indifferent ocean. The property manager, she will come tomorrow to meet you, Carlos said. Her name is Isabel. She will give you all the information about the house, about the area, about anything you need. My number is here, he handed me a card. If you need a driver, if you want to see other parts of Costa Rica, I am always available. I paid him a generous tip, and he looked genuinely touched. Thank you, Senora. Welcome to paradise. I think you will be very happy here. After he left, I stood on the patio and just breathed. The air smelled like salt and flowers. The sound of the waves was constant, rhythmic, hypnotic. A few birds I didn't recognize flew overhead, calling to each other in languages I'd never learn. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt my shoulders fully relax. I felt my jaw unclench. I felt something in my chest that I'd almost forgotten existed. Peace. I unpacked slowly, hanging clothes in the closet, arranging my toiletries in the bathroom, setting up my laptop on a desk that faced the ocean. I made myself a simple dinner, scrambled eggs, toast, coffee even though it was evening because I was on my own schedule now and nobody could tell me otherwise. Then I took my coffee out to the patio, sat in a cushioned chair, and watched the sun set over the Pacific. It was spectacular. The sky turned gold, then orange, then pink, then purple, the colors reflecting on the water like liquid metal. I sat there until it was fully dark and the stars came out, more stars than I'd ever seen in Houston with its light pollution and its constant glow. My phone was in my purse inside. I hadn't checked it since landing. Part of me didn't want to know what messages were waiting. But I was still a mother, still human, still tethered to the life I'd left by invisible threads that pulled whether I wanted them to or not. I went inside and pulled out my phone. 17 missed calls. 43 text messages. Most from Jessica. A few from Monica. 1 from James. Several from numbers I didn't recognize. Probably church members. Probably well-meaning people who wanted to mediate, to fix, to smooth over. I read James's text first. Asterisk have a safe flight, Mom. Proud of you. Check in when you can. Asterisk. I responded. Asterisk arrived safely. The villa is beautiful. I love you. Asterisk. Monica's text was more concerned. Asterisk I know you said not to tell Jay where you are, but she's really struggling. She's been calling me every day crying. I don't know what to tell her. Asterisk. I responded. Asterisk tell her I'm safe and I need space. That's all you need to say. Thank you for respecting my wishes. Asterisk. Then I opened Jessica's messages. I read them in chronological order, watching her emotional state deteriorate across the days. Mom, please call me back. We need to talk about this. The realtor said we have to be out by May 15th. That's only 2 weeks. Where are we supposed to go? Ryan found an apartment, but it's expensive and we can't afford the deposit. Can you help us? Please? I'm begging you. I can't believe you're doing this to us. To Emmy. I'm your daughter. How can you just abandon me? Fine. Don't answer. But when you decide to stop being petty and vindictive, don't expect me to forgive you easily. You're destroying our family. The last message had come 3 hours ago. Someone said they saw you at the airport. Are you leaving town? Are you seriously running away? Wow. Just wow. I guess I know where I stand now. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to explain, to justify my choices. But I'd been explaining and justifying my whole life. I was tired of it. Instead, I typed a single message, I'm safe. I love you. But I need time and distance to heal from what happened. I hope someday you'll understand. Give Ryan my regards. The last line was petty. I knew it was petty even as I typed it. But sometimes petty feels good when you've been too mature for too long. I sent it, then put my phone on airplane mode. Tomorrow I'd deal with whatever responses came. Tonight, I was just going to exist. I took a long shower, letting the water wash away the airport grime and the travel exhaustion and the last clinging threads of guilt. Then I climbed into bed in a house that wasn't mine but felt more like home than my actual home had felt in years. The windows were open, and I could hear the ocean, that constant rushing whisper that sounded like the earth breathing. I fell asleep thinking about nothing and no one. Just the sound of waves and the feeling of clean sheets and the knowledge that tomorrow I could do whatever I wanted. I could wake up late. I could drink coffee on the beach. I could read a book. I could write in my journal. I could sit and stare at the ocean for 8 hours straight if I felt like it. Nobody needed me. Nobody expected anything from me. Nobody was waiting for me to save them or fix them or sacrifice myself for their comfort. For the first time in my entire adult life, I belonged only to myself. And it felt glorious. I woke up the next morning to sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to close and the sound of birds singing in languages I'd never heard before. For a moment, I was disoriented, unsure where I was or how I'd gotten there. Then I remembered. Costa Rica. Freedom. A new life. I checked the clock on the nightstand, 9:47 a.m. I'd slept for almost 12 hours. When was the last time I'd slept past 7? I couldn't remember. In Houston, my days started at 5:30 a.m., either because I had to manage properties, or because I couldn't sleep for worrying about Jessica, or because my body had simply forgotten how to rest. But here, in this sun-drenched bedroom with the ocean murmuring in the background, I'd slept like I was making up for years of exhaustion all at once. I made coffee and carried it out to the patio. The morning was already warm, but not oppressively so. A breeze came off the water, carrying that salt and flowers smell that I was beginning to think of as the scent of freedom. I sat in my chair from last night and just watched the ocean. Waves rolled in, one after another, endless and patient. A few surfers were out catching the morning swells, their bodies graceful as they rode the water. How long had it been since I'd just sat and watched something beautiful without simultaneously making a mental to-do list? Without thinking about what needed to be fixed or paid for or managed? I couldn't remember. Maybe never. Around 11, a woman appeared on the path leading to the villa. She was maybe 50, with long dark hair streaked with silver and the kind of tan that spoke of a life spent outdoors. She waved as she approached. "Patricia," she called. "I'm Isabel, the property manager." I stood and met her at the edge of the patio. She shook my hand warmly, then immediately pulled me into a hug like we were old friends instead of strangers. It should have felt presumptuous, but somehow it didn't. It felt welcoming. "How was your first night?" she asked, her English perfect with just a hint of an accent. "Peaceful," I said, and that one word seemed to say everything. Isabel smiled like she understood. "Good. That's what this place is for. Peace." She spent the next hour showing me things Carlos hadn't covered. How to work the hot water heater, where the circuit breaker was, which neighbors I might meet and which areas of beach were best for swimming versus walking. She gave me a list of restaurants, grocery stores, and a doctor's office just in case. And if you need anything, anything at all, you call me, she said, handing me her card. I live 10 minutes away. I can bring you groceries, take you to appointments, introduce you to people if you want company. Or I can leave you completely alone if that's what you need. Whatever you want, Patricia. This is your time. Your time. What a concept. I'd had children's time, husband's time, tenant's time, church committee time. But my time? That was foreign territory. After Isabel left, I decided to explore. I walked down to the beach, my feet sinking into sand that was softer and warmer than any beach I'd been to in Texas. The water was bath temperature, crystal clear close to shore and deepening to turquoise farther out. I waded in up to my knees, feeling the pull of the tide, feeling myself being literally moved by forces larger than myself. A woman about my age walked past, smiled, and said, "Beautiful day." Beautiful, I agreed. That was the extent of our interaction, but it felt significant somehow. A reminder that I could exist in the world as just Patricia. Not Patricia the mother, Patricia the landlord, Patricia the widow, Patricia the woman who got slapped by her son-in-law. Just Patricia, a woman enjoying a beach. I walked for maybe an hour, collecting shells that caught my eye. Pink ones. Spiral ones. Some broken, some perfect. I filled my pockets with them, thinking I might arrange them on the windowsill in the villa. A small act of making a space my own. When I got back, I was hungry in a way I hadn't been in months. Not emotional eating. Not eating because it was mealtime and that's what you do. But genuinely, physically hungry because I'd been active and alive. I made myself lunch, fresh papaya, rice and beans, scrambled eggs with peppers I found in the fridge. I ate on the patio, savoring every bite. Then I opened my laptop for the first time since arriving. I had emails, of course. Vernon had sent me updates on the house sale. Everything had gone through smoothly, the money was in my account, there had been no complications. James had sent me a photo of my grandsons holding a sign that said "We love you, Grandma," which made me tear up. Monica had sent me an article about the health benefits of ocean air, which was her way of saying she approved of my choice without actually saying it. And there was an email from Jessica. The subject line said, "Please read this, Mom." I stared at it for a long time. Then I clicked. Mom, I don't even know where to start. I'm so angry at you. But I'm also scared and confused and I feel like my whole world is falling apart. Ryan and I are moving into a 2-bedroom apartment in a bad part of town because it's all we can afford. I had to leave my garden. Do you remember helping me plant those roses? They're going to die now. New owners probably won't take care of them. Ryan says you've always hated him. He says you've been looking for an excuse to punish us and you finally found one. He says you were never going to give us the house, that you were just dangling it like bait to control us. Is that true? Were you just manipulating us this whole time? I know what he did was wrong. I know that, Mom. But he was under so much stress, and you were challenging him in front of everyone, and he just snapped. It doesn't excuse it, but can't you understand? Can't you forgive him? Doesn't he deserve a second chance? Don't I deserve a mother who doesn't abandon me when things get hard? I need to know where you are. I need to know if you're coming back. I need to know if our relationship is just over now, if you're throwing away 45 years because of one mistake. Please, Mom. Please talk to me. Jessica. I read it 3 times. Each time, I felt different things. Anger at Ryan for twisting the narrative. Sadness for Jessica's pain. Frustration that she still didn't understand. And underneath it all, a creeping tendril of doubt. Was I being too harsh? Was I letting one terrible moment destroy a lifetime of relationship? Then I reread the part where she minimized what Ryan did. He just snapped. Like snapping was some unavoidable natural disaster instead of a choice. Like his stress somehow made violence understandable. Like I should just forgive and forget because that's what good mothers do. No. I wasn't doing this. I wasn't going to let her guilt pull me back into the role of family doormat. I closed the laptop without responding. Instead, I pulled out my journal and wrote until my hand ached, pouring out all the things I couldn't say to her face without getting drawn back into the cycle of guilt and obligation. Jessica wants me to forgive Ryan. But forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation. I can forgive him for being a broken, violent man without inviting him back into my life. I can forgive her for choosing him without accepting that choice as something I have to support financially and emotionally. Asterisk, she's right that I'm angry. But I'm not punishing them. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference, and if she can't see that difference, then maybe she's not ready for the relationship she says she wants. Asterisk, I'm tired of being the one who always has to be understanding, always has to be flexible, always has to put everyone else's needs first. I raised her. I gave her everything I had. And at some point, she has to stand on her own 2 feet without using me as a crutch. Writing it out helped. It clarified things. It reminded me why I was here and what I was trying to do. I wasn't running away. I was running toward the woman I could have been if I hadn't spent 70 years being what everyone needed me to be. Over the next few days, I fell into a rhythm. I'd wake up without an alarm. Make coffee. Sit on the patio and watch the sunrise. Sometimes I'd walk on the beach. Sometimes I'd read. I'd found a used bookstore in the nearest town and bought a stack of novels I'd always meant to read but never had time for. Sometimes I'd just sit and think. Or not think. Just exist. The constant noise in my head started to quiet. The anxiety that had been my companion for so long began to loosen its grip. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. I stopped mentally calculating what Jessica and Ryan might need from me. I stopped carrying the weight of everyone else's choices. One afternoon, about a week into my stay, I was walking on the beach when I saw an older woman setting up an easel. She had white hair pulled back in a messy bun and wore paint-splattered overalls. She was maybe 75, maybe 80, standing there with a palette in one hand and a brush in the other, capturing the ocean on canvas with bold, confident strokes. I stopped and watched for a while, mesmerized by how free she looked. How utterly unconcerned with anything except the painting in front of her. She must have sensed me watching because she turned and smiled. "You like art?" "I don't know much about it," I admitted. "But I like watching you work." "Come closer. Look." I approached, and she showed me her canvas. It was abstract, all blues and greens and whites, more feeling than realistic representation. It captured something essential about the ocean, its wildness, its power, its mystery. "It's beautiful," I said. "It's not about beautiful," she said. "It's about true. I paint what I feel, not what I see. You understand?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure I did. "You're new here," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. I'm here for a while." "Running from something or running to something?" I laughed. Carlos had asked a similar question. "Both, I think." "Good answer." She stuck out her hand, still holding the brush. "I'm Dorothy. I've been here for 12 years. Best decision I ever made." "Patricia. I've been here for 1 week. Also the best decision I've ever made." We shook hands, and somehow that simple exchange felt significant. Like a doorway opening. Dorothy and I talked for nearly an hour. She told me about her life. She'd been a high school art teacher in Minnesota, married for 47 years, widowed for 14. Her children wanted her to move near them, to live in a senior community, to be safe. Instead, she'd sold everything, moved to Costa Rica, and spent her days painting and swimming and living exactly as she pleased. "My son thinks I'm crazy," she said cheerfully. "He calls every week to check that I haven't been kidnapped or eaten by a crocodile or whatever he thinks happens down here. But I'm happier now than I was in 50 years of being a responsible adult." "Don't you miss your family?" I asked. "Of course. But I can miss them and still choose myself. Those 2 things can both be true." She looked at me with sharp blue eyes. "You're figuring that out right now, aren't you? How to be your own person without feeling guilty about it." "How did you know?" "Because I see that look on every woman who shows up here alone after a certain age. We all have that same expression. Like we're waiting for permission to be happy. Like we're braced for someone to tell us we're selfish." Her words hit me like a physical thing. That was exactly how I felt. Like I was waiting for permission. Like I was braced for judgment. "So how do you stop feeling that way?" I asked. Dorothy smiled and turned back to her canvas. "Time. Practice. And realizing that the people who call you selfish are usually the ones who benefited from your selflessness. Their opinion is not objective. Remember that." I thanked her and continued my walk, but her words echoed in my head for the rest of the day. Asterisk, the people who call you selfish are usually the ones who benefited from your selflessness. Asterisk, that described Jessica perfectly. And Ryan. And probably half the people in my life who expected me to always give, always sacrifice, always put myself last. That night, I finally responded to Jessica's email. I kept it short. Asterisk, Jessica, asterisk. Asterisk, I need you to understand something. I'm not punishing you. I'm not manipulating you. I'm protecting myself. What Ryan did was unforgivable, and your response to it has shown me that you're not ready to see the situation clearly. Asterisk. Asterisk, I love you. I always will. But love doesn't mean I have to accept disrespect or violence. Love doesn't mean I have to bankroll your life or sacrifice my peace for your comfort. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'm somewhere safe, somewhere beautiful. I'm healing. And I'm not coming back until I'm ready. That might be months. It might be longer. I don't know yet. Asterisk. Asterisk, you're a grown woman with a job and a husband. You'll figure things out. I have faith in you, even if you don't have faith in yourself right now. Asterisk. Asterisk, mom, asterisk. I sent it before I could second guess myself. Then I closed my laptop and went outside to watch the stars. I was changing. I could feel it happening, like a snake shedding old skin. The Patricia who left Houston was still in there somewhere, but she was becoming someone new. Someone stronger. Someone who took up space without apologizing. And whoever that person was, I was starting to really like her. 3 weeks into my Costa Rican sabbatical, I'd established a life I didn't want to leave. I'd met more people. Dorothy introduced me to her circle of expat women, all of us refugees from lives that had asked too much and given too little. There was Helen, a former nurse from Boston who'd left after her kids put her in a nursing home against her wishes. There was Margaret, who'd walked out on a 40-year marriage after discovering her husband's affair. There was Susan, who'd simply decided at 68 that she was done being a grandmother on demand and a free babysitter. We met for coffee twice a week at a little cafe overlooking the ocean. We talked about books, politics, the weather, our pasts when we felt like it and our futures when we didn't. Nobody pressed. Nobody judged. Nobody expected anything except showing up when you said you would. I'd also started painting. Dorothy had loaned me some supplies and given me a few basic lessons, and I was terrible at it, but I didn't care. There was something freeing about being bad at something with no pressure to improve. I painted messy sunsets and lopsided palm trees, and they made me happy in a way that perfectly managed rental properties never had. My phone had become mostly irrelevant. I checked it once a day, responded to the messages that mattered, James updating me on his boys, Monica sending me articles and memes, Vernon reporting on my financial affairs, and ignored the rest. Jessica had stopped emailing after my response. Whether she was respecting my boundaries or punishing me with silence, I didn't know. Either way, the quiet was a relief. Then, on May 22nd, my phone rang at 6:47 a.m. with Monica's number on the screen. She never called this early. My heart jumped into my throat as I answered. Monica, what's wrong? Mom. Her voice was thick, like she'd been crying. Mom, I'm so sorry to call like this, but I thought you should know. James tried to reach you but you didn't answer. Ice flooded my veins. Know what? What happened? It's Jessica. She's in the hospital. She tried to. Mom, she tried to kill herself. The world tilted. I sat down hard on the edge of my bed, the phone pressed so tight against my ear it hurt. What? Ryan found her last night. Pills. A whole bottle of sleeping pills. He called 911, and they got her to the ER in time. They pumped her stomach. She's stable now, but... Monica's voice broke. Mom, she left a note. She said she couldn't handle losing you and losing the house and feeling like her whole life was falling apart. She said she was sorry for everything. She said she understood why you left, but she couldn't bear it. I couldn't breathe. Literally couldn't pull air into my lungs. The room was spinning, and all I could see was Jessica as a little girl, maybe 5 years old, bringing me dandelions she'd picked from the yard. My pretty flowers for my pretty mama, she'd said, her face so full of uncomplicated love. Mom? Are you there? I'm here, I whispered. Which hospital? Memorial Hermann. But Mom, you don't have to, I mean, Ryan's with her. James is trying to get a flight out. I'm trying to get there too. You don't have to come back if. I'm coming back, I heard myself say. I'm getting on the next flight. Tell her I'm coming. I hung up and sat there in my beautiful villa with the ocean murmuring outside and everything inside me screaming. This was my fault. My daughter had tried to die, and it was my fault. I'd been so focused on protecting myself, on establishing boundaries, on finally putting myself first, that I'd driven her to this. All of Dorothy's wisdom about how the people who call you selfish are the ones who benefited from your selflessness, it all felt like justification now. Rationalization for abandoning my child when she needed me. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I called Vernon. He answered on the first ring, like he'd been waiting. Pat? I heard. Monica called me too. She thought you might need help getting back quickly. I need to be on a plane today. As soon as possible. I'm already looking. There's a flight out of Liberia at 2 p.m. that connects through Houston. I can have Carlos pick you up in an hour. Can you be ready? Yes. Thank you. Pat. Vernon's voice was gentle. This isn't your fault. You know that, right? I don't know anything right now. I just need to get to my daughter. I threw clothes into a suitcase without thinking about what I was packing. I didn't bother with organizing or folding. I just grabbed things and stuffed them in. I left half my belongings at the villa. I'd figure that out later. Right now, nothing mattered except getting home. Carlos arrived in 40 minutes. He took one look at my face and didn't ask questions, just loaded my suitcase and drove faster than he probably should have through those winding roads. I stared out the window at the beautiful landscape I'd come to love, and all I could think was that I'd been selfish. I'd prioritized my peace over my daughter's pain, and now she was in a hospital bed because of it. The flight was torture. 5 hours to Houston with a layover in between, every minute stretching like hours. I couldn't eat. Couldn't read. Couldn't do anything except replay every decision I'd made since April 14th and wonder which one had been the tipping point. Was it selling the house? Was it leaving the country? Was it that email where I told her she was a grown woman who would figure things out? Had I been so focused on not being manipulated that I'd missed genuine crisis? I landed in Houston at 9:37 p.m. James was waiting for me at baggage claim, and the relief on his face when he saw me almost made me cry. He hugged me hard, and I clung to him like he was the only solid thing in a world that had turned to quicksand. How is she? I asked. Awake. Stable. They're keeping her in the psychiatric unit for observation. Ryan's been with her all day. Mom, she's asking for you. She keeps asking if you're coming. Take me there. Now. The drive to Memorial Hermann took 20 minutes that felt like 20 years. James filled me in on details. Jessica had taken the pills around 10 p.m. the previous night. Ryan had come home from a work event around midnight and found her unresponsive. He'd called 911 immediately, probably the first truly useful thing he'd done in years. The paramedics had gotten her to the hospital within 15 minutes. Her stomach had been pumped. She'd been unconscious for several hours but woke up that morning. The note had been short, I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. Tell Mom I love her and I understand why she left. Tell her I'm sorry for everything. Have you read the note? I asked James. Ryan showed it to me and Monica. Mom, it's heartbreaking. We arrived at the hospital, and James led me through corridors that smelled of antiseptic and despair. The psychiatric unit was on the 4th floor, behind locked doors with warning signs about patient privacy. James spoke to a nurse, who made a phone call, and after what felt like an eternity, I was cleared to go in. Room 417, the nurse said. But before you go in, you should know that your son-in-law is in there. He's been pretty protective. Just be prepared. I didn't care about Ryan. I cared about Jessica. I walked down the hallway with James beside me, my heart hammering against my ribs. Outside room 417, I paused and took a breath. Then I pushed open the door. The room was dim, lit only by a small lamp beside the bed. Jessica lay there looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, pale against white sheets, and 4 in her arm, monitors beeping softly. Her eyes were closed, but they fluttered open when I entered. Mom. Her voice was hoarse, broken. I'm here, baby. I'm here. I moved toward the bed, but Ryan stood up from a chair in the corner, blocking my path. He looked terrible, unshaven, rumpled, his eyes red-rimmed. But there was something else in his expression too. Something hard. "You have a lot of nerve showing up here," he said, his voice low and venomous. I stared at him. After everything, after he'd hit me, after he'd lied to Jessica, after he'd gambled away their money, he was standing here telling me I had nerve? "Get out of my way, Ryan," I said quietly. "I'm here to see my daughter." "Your daughter who tried to kill herself because you abandoned her? That daughter?" The words hit like bullets. I felt James stiffen beside me, ready to intervene, but I held up my hand. "Ryan, I'm not doing this with you. Not here. Not now. Move." "You broke her," he continued, his voice rising. "You sold our house out from under us. You left the country without telling her where you were going. You made her feel worthless and unloved. And then you wonder why she did this." Something snapped inside me. Not anger. I was past anger. This was something colder, sharper. Clarity. "I broke her." I repeated softly. "I broke her? You hit me in front of 300 people. You gambled away your savings and put your wife in danger with loan sharks. You lied to her about a house deed to make me look like the villain. And somehow I'm the one who broke her. You were controlling us with that house. Holding it over our heads. I gave you a place to live rent-free while you got your life together. I paid $6,000 to $7,000 of your gambling debts. I've given you more money and support than you've ever deserved, and your gratitude was assaulting me in church." Jessica made a small sound from the bed. "Stop," she whispered. "Please stop." We both turned to her. She was crying silently, tears running down her pale cheeks. "Both of you. Just stop." I moved past Ryan, and this time he didn't try to stop me. I sat on the edge of Jessica's bed and took her hand, careful not to disturb the four. Her fingers were cold, so cold, and I wrapped both my hands around them trying to warm them. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "Baby, I'm so sorry. I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt you." "I know," she said, her voice barely audible. "I read your email. The one you sent. I read it over and over, and I knew you were right. About everything. About Ryan. About me. About how I'd been treating you. But knowing it and accepting it are different things, and I couldn't handle it, Mom. I couldn't handle knowing that I'd chosen him over you, that I'd defended him when he hit you, that I'd been so blind and stupid and..." "Sure. You're not stupid. You fell in love with someone who wasn't what he seemed. That's not stupid. That's human. But I should have believed you about the house. I should have asked you directly instead of letting Ryan tell me what to think. I should have left him the second he touched you. I should have." "Should have doesn't matter now," I said, smoothing her hair back from her forehead like I used to when she was little and sick with fever. "What matters is that you're alive. What matters is that we fix this. Together." Ryan cleared his throat from the corner. "So you're just going to forgive her? Just like that? After everything she said about you?" I turned to look at him. Really look at him. He was a small man, I realized. Not physically, he was nearly 6 feet tall, but inside, where it counted, he was tiny and petty and cruel. And I was done pretending otherwise. "James," I said calmly, "would you please ask security to remove Ryan from this room?" "What?" Ryan sputtered. "You can't do that. I'm her husband. And I'm her mother. And I'm about to make a very large donation to this hospital to ensure they do exactly what I ask. So you can leave voluntarily, or you can be escorted out. Your choice." James was already at the door, speaking to a nurse. Ryan looked at Jessica, waiting for her to defend him, to tell me I was being unreasonable. But Jessica just closed her eyes and squeezed my hand. "Get out, Ryan," she whispered. "Jess. Get out." The shout seemed to take all her energy. She sagged back against the pillows, exhausted. I can't do this anymore. I can't be in the middle. I can't defend you anymore. Just go." 2 security guards appeared at the door. They were polite but firm, and within minutes, Ryan was gone. The room felt lighter without him in it, like a window had been opened in a stuffy house. Jessica was crying harder now, her whole body shaking with sobs. I climbed carefully onto the bed beside her, something I hadn't done since she was a teenager with a broken heart over some high school boy, and held her while she cried. James stood by the door, giving us privacy but staying close enough if we needed him. "I'm so sorry, Mom," Jessica kept saying. "I'm so sorry for everything." "I know, sweetheart. I know. And I forgive you. I forgive all of it." "You shouldn't. You should hate me. I was awful to you. I chose him over you so many times. You were trying to make your marriage work. That's not a crime. But Jessica, listen to me." I pulled back so I could see her face. "You can't stay with him. You know that, right? This marriage, it's destroying you." She nodded miserably. "I know. I've known for a while. But I didn't want to admit I'd made a mistake. I didn't want everyone to say I told you so. I didn't want to be divorced twice before 50. I would never say I told you so. And neither would anyone who really loves you. You know what took more courage than staying? This. Asking him to leave. Choosing yourself. That took courage. It didn't feel like courage. It felt like giving up. Sometimes giving up on the wrong thing is the bravest thing you can do." We talked for hours. James brought us coffee and then quietly left to give us more privacy. Jessica told me everything. How Ryan's gambling had never really stopped, just gotten better hidden. How he'd been emotionally abusive in ways she hadn't recognized as abuse until recently. How he'd been having an affair with a woman from his office, which she discovered 2 weeks ago. How everything had piled up until she couldn't see a way forward and the pills had seemed like the only escape. "I wasn't trying to hurt you," she said. "I wasn't trying to punish you. I just wanted everything to stop hurting for a while." "I understand. And I'm not angry. But baby, you have to promise me something. You have to promise that if you ever feel that way again, you call me first. Even if we're fighting. Even if you think I'm angry at you. You call me, and I will drop everything and come. Do you understand?" "I promise." She squeezed my hand. Are you going back to Costa Rica?" I'd been dreading this question because I didn't know the answer. Part of me wanted to rush back immediately, to reclaim the peace I'd found there. But part of me knew my daughter needed me here, at least for a while. "Not right away," I said carefully. "I'm going to stay until you're discharged and settled somewhere safe. But Jessica, I need you to understand something. I'm not giving up my life in Costa Rica. I'm not moving back to Houston permanently. I've found something there that I need, something I didn't even know I was missing. I'm coming back eventually." She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks again. "I understand. And I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to come back either, after everything we put you through. It's not about punishment. It's about peace. It's about being able to breathe without carrying everyone else's weight. You understand that, don't you?" "I do now. I think I need to find that for myself too. My own peace. My own life that isn't about managing Ryan's problems or trying to fix everything or being who everyone expects me to be." "Then that's what you'll do. We'll figure it out together." A nurse came in to check Jessica's vitals and gently suggested I should let her rest. I kissed Jessica's forehead and promised to be back first thing in the morning. James was waiting in the hallway and drove me to a hotel near the hospital that he'd already booked for me. "You did good in there, Mom," he said as we pulled up to the entrance. Standing up to Ryan like that. Not letting him manipulate the situation. I should have stood up to him a long time ago. Maybe if I had, Jessica wouldn't be in that hospital bed. "Don't do that. Don't blame yourself. Ryan is responsible for Ryan's actions. Jessica is responsible for hers. And you're only responsible for yours. You can't save people from their own choices." Smart kid. When had my son gotten so wise? I checked into the hotel and collapsed onto the bed, suddenly exhausted in a way I hadn't felt in weeks. My Costa Rican peace felt like a distant dream now, something I'd imagined rather than lived. But it had been real. And it would be real again. I just had to get through this first. I pulled out my phone and sent a message to Dorothy. Had to come back to Houston. Family emergency. I'll explain when I can. But I'm coming back. Save my seat at coffee. Her response came immediately. The ocean will be here. So will we. Take care of your family. Take care of yourself. I fell asleep in my clothes with the lights still on, too tired to do anything else. When I woke the next morning, there were 17 missed calls from Ryan and a series of increasingly unhinged text messages. I blocked his number without reading all of them and went back to the hospital. Jessica was awake and looked marginally better. The psychiatrist had evaluated her and recommended a week of inpatient treatment followed by intensive outpatient therapy. Jessica had agreed to all of it. She seemed almost relieved to have a plan, a structure, something concrete to hold on to. "Ryan's been calling me too," she said. "Begging me to talk to him. Saying he's sorry, that he'll change, that we can fix this." "What did you tell him?" "Nothing. I haven't answered. Mom, I'm done. Really done. I know I've said that before, but this time I mean it. I'm filing for divorce as soon as I get out of here." "I'm proud of you," I said. And I meant it. Over the next week, I stayed in Houston and visited Jessica every day. I met with her psychiatrist, her social worker, her therapist. I found her a divorce lawyer, a fierce woman named Patricia. Yes, we shared a name, which felt like fate, who specialized in cases involving financial abuse and addiction. I helped Jessica start compiling documentation of Ryan's gambling, his debts, his lies. Monica flew in from wherever she'd been nursing and spent 3 days with us. James extended his trip. For the first time in years, maybe decades, the 3 of my children were together in one place, united not by obligation or holiday tradition but by genuine concern for each other. We didn't talk about the past beyond what was necessary. We talked about the future. About Jessica's healing. About where she'd live after discharge. Monica offered to let her stay at her condo, which was empty most of the time anyway. About therapy and medication and building a life worth living. And slowly, I watched my daughter come back to life. The color returned to her cheeks. The light returned to her eyes. She laughed at something James said, a real laugh that came from her belly, and I thought, there she is. There's my girl. On the 7th day, I sat with Jessica in the hospital garden, a small courtyard with flowers and benches where patients could get fresh air. The Texas heat was oppressive, so different from the ocean breeze I'd left behind, but Jessica seemed to be enjoying the sunshine. "Mom," she said suddenly, "I want you to go back to Costa Rica." I looked at her, surprised. "I'm not leaving until you're discharged and settled." "I will be discharged tomorrow. Monica's already got my room set up. James flies back to Oregon tonight, but Monica's staying for another week. I have a therapist, a lawyer, and a support group. I have everything I need. And you have a life waiting for you in paradise that you should get back to. Jessica. Please. Let me do this. Let me prove to you, and to myself, that I can stand on my own. That I don't need you to save me. You've already saved me just by coming back, by forgiving me, by showing me that our relationship isn't broken beyond repair. But now I need to save myself. And you need to go back to whatever you found in Costa Rica that made you look so peaceful before all this happened." I studied her face. She meant it. This wasn't martyrdom or manipulation. This was a daughter trying to become a woman, trying to break a cycle of dependence that had damaged both of us. "Okay," I said finally. "But you have to promise me you'll call if you need me. And not just in crisis. Call me to tell me about your day. About your therapy. About the small victories. I want to be part of your life, Jessica. Just not the only support beam holding up your entire existence." "I promise. Mom, I promise." We hugged there in the garden while Texas buzzed around us, cars honking, birds singing, life continuing like it always did, indifferent to human drama. That night, I booked a flight back to Costa Rica for May 31st. Vernon arranged everything again. Bless him. James gave me the longest hug before he left for his flight. Monica squeezed my hand and whispered, "Thank you for coming back. But also thank you for having the guts to leave in the first place. You taught me something important." "What's that?" "That loving your family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself on their altar." Those words stayed with me as I packed my hotel room, as I visited Jessica one final time before her discharge, as I drove myself to the airport because I insisted I didn't need anyone to take me. As my plane lifted off from Houston, I looked down at the sprawling city where I'd spent most of my life. It looked different now, smaller somehow. Not in a dismissive way, but in a way that made me realize how much bigger the world was than this one place, this one role, this one version of myself. I was going back to Costa Rica, but I was going back different than I'd left. I'd proven something to myself, that I could establish boundaries and still show up when it really mattered. That I could choose myself without abandoning the people I loved. That strong women don't have to be hard women, that soft hearts can have firm boundaries. The plane banked over the Gulf of Mexico, heading south toward the life I'd started building, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt whole. Carlos was waiting for me at Liberia Airport with the same gentle smile and the same spotless white SUV. When he saw me, his eyebrows rose in surprise. "Senora Patricia, you are back. I thought maybe you were gone forever when you left so quickly." "So did I, for a while," I admitted as he loaded my suitcase. "But it turns out paradise is hard to quit." He laughed at that, a warm sound that felt like coming home. As we drove back through those familiar winding roads, past the fruit stands and painted houses and children playing soccer, I felt tension I hadn't even realized I was carrying begin to dissolve. The air smelled right. The temperature felt right. Even the potholes in the road felt right, in a strange way. "Your villa, it is still yours," Carla said. "Isabel, she kept it for you. She said she knew you would come back." "She did." "Yes," she said, "that woman found something here. She will be back." Isabel is very wise about these things. The villa looked exactly as I'd left it, though Isabel had clearly been maintaining it. Fresh flowers sat in a vase on the kitchen counter with a note. *Welcome home, Patricia. I never doubted you'd return. Coffee and groceries in the kitchen. Call me when you're settled. Isabel*. I stood on the patio, breathing in that salt and flower smell, listening to the ocean, watching the sun begin its descent toward the horizon, and I felt tears running down my face. But they weren't sad tears. They were relief tears. Homecoming tears. I'd survived the storm and made it back to shore. That evening, I wrote in my journal. June 1st, 2024 I'm back. Houston feels like a fever dream now, intense and disorienting and necessary, but not real in the way this place is real. Jessica is going to be okay. I really believe that. She's facing her demons instead of running from them, and that's more than I could do at her age. I learned something in the past week. I learned that you can have boundaries and compassion. You can choose yourself and show up for people you love when they really need you. It's not either or. It's both and. But I also learned something else. I'm not going back to Houston. Not permanently. My life is here now. Whatever that means for my relationships with my children, whatever that means for holidays and birthdays and the traditional family structure I've always maintained, it changes now. Because I've changed. And I'm not sorry about it. The next morning, I met Dorothy and the other women at our usual cafe. When they saw me, they erupted in hugs and questions and concerns. I told them an edited version of what had happened, enough that they understood the weight of it without all the painful details. "You came back," Dorothy said, holding both my hands across the table. "That's what matters. You could have stayed in Houston out of guilt or obligation. But you came back. That's growth, Patricia." "It doesn't feel like growth. It feels like selfishness." "That's because you've been programmed to believe that taking care of yourself is selfish," Helen said, her Boston accent still strong after a decade in Costa Rica. "Honey, you flew back to be with your daughter in crisis. You stayed a week. You made sure she had resources and support. Then you came back to your own life. That's not selfish. That's healthy." Margaret nodded. "When I left my husband, my kids called me every name in the book. Selfish. Cruel. Unforgiving. And you know what? They were really saying, 'You're not doing what we want anymore, and that makes us uncomfortable. Your daughter will understand eventually. Or she won't. But either way, you've done what you needed to do.'" Their words helped, but I still struggled. I'd been the family matriarch for so long that stepping back from that role felt like stepping off a cliff, even when the landing was soft sand and ocean breeze. Over the next few weeks, I talked to Jessica almost every day. Short calls, just checking in. She was doing well, surprisingly well. She'd started her intensive outpatient therapy program. She'd met with the divorce lawyer and filed papers. She'd joined a support group for people who'd survived suicide attempts, and she said it was helping more than she'd expected. "There's something powerful about being with other people who understand," she told me, "who don't look at you with pity or fear, who just get it. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart." "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you happy there? In Costa Rica? Really happy?" I looked out at the ocean, watched a pelican dive for fish, felt the breeze on my skin. Yes, I said honestly. I really am. Good. That makes me happy. I think I spent so long being angry that you left that I never stopped to wonder if maybe you deserve to be happy, even if it meant leaving us behind. I didn't leave you behind, Jessica. I left behind a version of myself that was drowning. There's a difference. I'm starting to understand that. After we hung up, I sat with that conversation for a long time. My daughter was healing. Our relationship was healing. And I was healing too, in ways I hadn't expected. I started painting more seriously. Dorothy was a patient teacher, and I was a willing student. My work was still amateurish, but I could see improvement. More importantly, I didn't care about the quality. I cared about the process, the meditation of it, the way time disappeared when I was focused on capturing light and shadow. I made more friends in the expat community and in the local Costa Rican community. My Spanish was terrible, but I was learning. Isabel introduced me to her mother, Senora Rosa, who invited me to her house for coffee and somehow managed to communicate entire stories despite my limited vocabulary. We laughed a lot, Rosa and I, at my mangled Spanish and at the universal absurdities of life. I went to the beach every morning. Sometimes I swam. Sometimes I walked. Sometimes I just sat a day. I stopped feeling guilty about how I spent my time because time was mine to spend however I wanted. One afternoon in mid-June, Dorothy and I were painting side by side on the beach when she said, "You've changed since you came back from Houston. You're lighter somehow." Lighter. Less burdened. Like you were carrying something heavy before, and now you've finally put it down. I think I have. I think I was carrying the weight of everyone's expectations of who I should be. And in Houston, I realized that I could put that weight down and people might be angry or disappointed, but they'd survive. And so would I. Dorothy nodded, dabbing blue paint onto her canvas. That's the secret they don't tell you when you're young. They tell you to be a good daughter, a good wife, a good mother. But nobody tells you to be a good Patricia. A good you. And by the time you realize that should have been the priority all along, you've already spent decades being good for everyone else. Is it too late? I asked quietly. Am I too late? To what? To be yourself? Patricia, you're 71. If you live to 90, that's 19 years. Nearly 2 decades. That's not too late. That's a gift. Most women never get this time at all. She was right. And I was going to make the most of every day I had left. In early July, Monica came to visit for a week. It was her idea. She had time off between assignments and wanted to see where I was living, what I'd found that was worth staying for. I was nervous about her visit, worried she'd judge my choices or try to convince me to come home. But from the moment she stepped off the plane, she got it. "Oh my God, Mom," she said, standing on my patio and looking out at the ocean. "I totally understand why you're not coming back." We spent the week swimming, eating at local restaurants, talking about everything and nothing. Monica told me about her nomadic nursing life, about the places she'd seen and the people she'd helped. She told me she was thinking about settling down somewhere, maybe finding a more permanent position, but she wasn't sure where. "Have you considered here?" I asked carefully. "Costa Rica, I mean. They need nurses. You speak Spanish better than I ever will. And you could have family nearby." Her eyes lit up. I hadn't thought about that. But, could I do that? Just move to another country? Why not? I did. She laughed. "You're right. If my 71-year-old mother can do it, I guess I can too." Before she left, we sat on the beach at sunset, and Monica said, "Thank you." For what? For showing me that it's okay to choose unconventional. I've always felt weird about my lifestyle, about not settling down, not having kids, just traveling and working and never putting down roots. But watching you do this, watching you choose peace over obligation, it made me realize I don't have to apologize for living the life I want to live. I hugged her tight. "You never have to apologize for that, sweetheart. Not to me. Not to anyone." After Monica left, I felt more settled than ever. 2 of my 3 children understood what I was doing and why. James had always been supportive. Only Jessica's full understanding was still developing, but I could wait. She was working on herself, and that was more important than anything else. In August, something unexpected happened. I got an email from Pastor Elkins at Covenant Grace Church. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won out. Dear Patricia I hope this email finds you well. I've thought about you often since that terrible Sunday morning in April. I want you to know that many of us in the congregation were horrified by what Ryan did, and we've been praying for you and for your family. I'm writing for 2 reasons. First, to apologize. I should have intervened more quickly that morning. I should have immediately called out Ryan's behavior as unacceptable. My hesitation to act decisively came from a misguided desire not to cause more of a scene, but in doing so, I failed you. I'm sorry. Second, to inform you that Ryan is no longer welcome at Covenant Grace. After speaking with many witnesses and with Jessica herself, the church board voted unanimously to ask him not to return until he has undergone extensive counseling and made amends for his actions. Jessica, on the other hand, continues to be a valued member of our congregation, and we're supporting her through this difficult time. You don't owe us anything, Patricia. You don't owe me a response to this email. But I wanted you to know that you were wronged, that we see it clearly, and that we stand with you. If you ever want to talk, my door is always open. In fellowship. Pastor Thomas Elkins. I read the email 3 times, feeling things I didn't expect. Relief that the church had taken action. Vindication that my version of events had been believed. And something like closure, a sense that this chapter was really ending. I wrote back. Pastor Elkins. Thank you for your email and for your courage in taking action. I forgive you for not intervening more quickly that morning. Crisis makes us all freeze sometimes. I'm glad to hear Jessica has support. She's going to need it. As for me, I'm doing well. I'm living in Costa Rica now, and I've found peace here that I didn't know was possible. I don't know if I'll return to Houston, and I'm certain I won't return to Covenant Grace. Not because I'm angry, but because I've outgrown that version of my life. Thank you for reaching out. It means more than you might think. Blessings. Patricia. Sending that email felt like laying down another weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. The approval of my church community, the validation of my spiritual family. I thought I needed those things. But I didn't. They were nice to have, but they weren't necessary for my peace. September arrived with slightly cooler temperatures and spectacular storms that rolled in from the ocean. I'd sit on my covered patio and watch lightning crack across the sky, watch rain pound the beach, watch the whole world get washed clean. Those storms became my favorite time, violent and beautiful and temporary. Like life, I thought. Like change. Violent and beautiful and temporary. One morning in late September, I woke up and realized I'd been in Costa Rica for 5 months. 5 months that felt both like forever and like no time at all. 5 months of healing, growing, learning who I was when I wasn't defined by my relationships to other people. I made my coffee and went out to the patio, and I thought about the woman I'd been in April. The woman who got slapped in church. The woman who sold a house out of anger and hurt. The woman who fled to another country because she couldn't face the wreckage of her life. That woman was still in me somewhere, but she was buried under layers of new growth. Like those shells I'd collected on my first beach walk, broken pieces that had been tumbled smooth by water and time. I pulled out my journal and wrote. September the 28th, 2024 5 months. Half of my planned 6-month stay. Isabel asked me yesterday if I'm planning to extend my rental, and I realized I don't have an answer. Because the question isn't how long will I stay in Costa Rica. The question is, where is home now? And I don't think home is a place anymore. I think home is this feeling, this peace, this sense of being enough exactly as I am. I found that feeling here, but maybe now I could find it anywhere. Or maybe I just need to stay here where the feeling is strongest. I don't have to decide today. That's another thing I've learned. Not every question needs an immediate answer. Some things can just be uncertain for a while. That evening, Dorothy invited me to her house for dinner. She lived in a small cottage further down the beach, every wall covered with her paintings, every surface holding treasures she'd collected over 12 years of Costa Rican life. We ate fish she'd bought from a local fisherman and vegetables from her garden, and we drank wine and watched the sunset. I have something to tell you, she said when the sky had turned from orange to purple. I'm going back to Minnesota for a few months. My son's wife is having surgery, and they need help with the grandkids. I'm leaving next week. Dorothy. Will you come back? She smiled. Of course I'll come back. This is my home. But I'm learning that you can have more than one home. You can have roots in more than one place. And you can leave somewhere you love without abandoning it. Her words echoed in my head for days. You can leave somewhere you love without abandoning it. That applied to Costa Rica, yes. But it also applied to Houston. To my children. To the life I'd built over 70 years. I hadn't abandoned any of it. I'd just expanded my definition of what life could be. In early October, Vernon called with news. One of your Houston properties has a buyer interested in purchasing 3 of your buildings as a package deal. They're offering a very good price. Should I pursue it? I thought about it. Those properties were my last real tie to Houston beyond my children. Selling them would mean truly closing that chapter. Yes, I said. Pursue it. Sell them. Pat, are you sure? That's a big decision. I'm sure. I'm not coming back, Vernon. Not to live. I might visit occasionally, but my life is here now. It's time to accept that and make decisions accordingly. The deal closed in November. Suddenly, I had more money than I'd ever need, no property obligations, and complete freedom to design whatever life I wanted. Jessica called me on November 15th, her voice bright with news I hadn't expected. Mom, the divorce is final. It's done. I'm officially Jessica Drummond again. How do you feel? Free. Terrified. Excited. All of it. But mostly free. And Mom, I've been thinking. I might come visit you for Christmas. If that's okay. I'd like to see what you found there. I'd like to understand. I would love that, I said, and I meant it completely. I'm not trying to guilt you into coming back. I want to be clear about that. I'm coming because I want to see you happy in your element. I want to celebrate you instead of resenting you. Is that weird? That's not weird at all, sweetheart. That's beautiful. After we hung up, I sat on my patio and cried happy tears. My daughter was healing. Our relationship was healing. And I was healing. All of us, separately and together, learning how to be whole. The woman I'd been in April, the woman who got slapped, who sold a house, who ran to Costa Rica, she wouldn't recognize me now. And that was exactly the point. Jessica arrived on December 20th, and I barely recognized her. Not physically, she still looked like my daughter, same dark hair, same green eyes, but something fundamental had changed. She carried herself differently. Taller. More solid. Like she'd found her own center of gravity. Carlos picked her up from the airport while I waited at the villa, nervous in a way I hadn't expected. What if she hated it here? What if she looked at my simple life and saw it as diminished instead of intentional? What if this visit reopened wounds we'd been carefully healing? But when she stepped out of Carlos's SUV and saw the villa, saw the ocean beyond it, her face transformed. Mom, she breathed. Oh my God. This is where you've been living. This is home, I said simply. She dropped her bags and hugged me, and I felt her relax against me in a way she hadn't in years. Maybe decades. I get it now, she whispered. I completely get it. We spent the first 2 days just existing together. I showed her my favorite beach spots, my painting supplies, the cafe where I met with Dorothy and the others. I introduced her to Isabel, to Senora Rosa, to Carlos. I took her to the little town market where I bought fresh fruit and vegetables, where everyone knew my name now and greeted me like I'd always been there. Jessica soaked it all in, asking questions, taking pictures, but mostly just observing. On the 3rd day, we sat on the patio at sunset, my favorite time, and she finally said what she'd been building up to. I owe you an apology. Jessica, we've been through this. I've forgiven. No, let me finish. I owe you an apology not just for what happened with Ryan, but for years before that. For treating you like a bank instead of a mother. For assuming you'd always be there to catch me when I fell. For never asking if you were okay, if you needed anything, if your life was what you wanted it to be. I was so focused on my own problems that I never saw you as a whole person. Just as Mom, the woman who fixed things. I felt tears prickling my eyes. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. Being here, seeing how you live now, seeing how peaceful you are, it made me realize how much pressure I was putting on you. How much we all were. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We cried together as the sun set over the Pacific, washing the sky in colors I still couldn't name even after 8 months of watching them. It felt like a cleansing, this shared grief for the relationship we'd damaged and the new one we were building. I forgive you, I said finally. But more importantly, I need you to forgive yourself. We both did the best we could with what we knew at the time. Now we know better, and we're doing better. That's all we can ask. Jessica nodded, wiping her eyes. You've changed so much, Mom. You're, I don't know, stronger, but also softer somehow. Like you're not afraid anymore. I'm still afraid sometimes. But I'm not afraid of the right things anymore. I used to be terrified of being alone, of being judged, of being seen as selfish. Now I'm only afraid of going back to being the person who accepted disrespect because she thought that's what love looked like. That's what I'm learning in therapy. That love doesn't mean tolerating abuse. That boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges to healthier relationships. Look at us, I said with a wet laugh. 2 therapy graduates having breakthrough conversations in paradise. Jessica laughed too, and it was the most genuine sound I'd heard from her in years. The rest of her visit was magical. We painted together on the beach, her work was much better than mine. We took a day trip to a nearby wildlife refuge and saw monkeys and sloths and birds in colors that seemed too bright to be real. We cooked meals together in my little kitchen, dancing around each other like we had when she was a teenager helping me make Sunday dinners. On Christmas Eve, we sat on the patio with candles flickering and Christmas music playing softly from my laptop. It was nothing like our traditional Houston Christmases. No big tree, no extended family, no elaborate meal. Just the 2 of us, the ocean, and the stars. This is my favorite Christmas ever, Jessica said suddenly. Really? But we didn't do anything special. That's why it's my favorite. We're just being together. No performance. No pressure. No pretending everything is perfect when it's not. Just you and me, exactly as we are. I love you, sweetheart. I love you too, Mom. And thank you. For not giving up on me. For coming back when I needed you but also for leaving when you needed to. For showing me that it's possible to start over at any age. Christmas morning, we exchanged small gifts. I gave her a painting I'd done of the sunset, amateurish but heartfelt. She gave me a leather-bound book of poetry by Mary Oliver, inscribed, ** to Mom, who finally learned to let the soft animal of her body love what it loves. Forever grateful for your courage. **. I cried when I read it, because she understood. She really, truly understood. Jessica left on December 27th, and this time the goodbye was different. No tears. No clinging. Just a hug and a promise to video chat weekly, and maybe she'd come visit again in the spring. I'm proud of you, Mom, she said at the airport. Not just for surviving what we put you through, but for thriving. You're living proof that it's never too late to choose yourself. After Carlos drove her away, I stood in the airport and felt something settle in my chest. Complete. That was the word. I felt complete in a way I never had before. The new year arrived with celebration in the local town, fireworks over the ocean, music in the streets, people dancing and laughing and welcoming 2025 with open arms. I joined Dorothy and our group of women friends, and we toasted to another year of living life on our own terms. To second acts, Helen said, raising her glass. To third acts, Margaret corrected. To as many acts as we need. To women who refuse to disappear, I added. We clinked glasses as fireworks exploded overhead, and I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago. Invisible. Taken for granted. Accepting crumbs and calling it love. I would never be her again. January passed peacefully. I'd extended my villa rental indefinitely. Isabel said I could stay as long as I wanted. I'd made more friends, improved my Spanish to conversational level, and started volunteering at a local women's shelter, teaching basic financial literacy. Turns out decades of property management had given me skills that translated anywhere. Then, on February 3rd, my carefully constructed piece was shattered by a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Patricia Drummond. A woman's voice, professional but warm. Yes. My name is Catherine Chen. I'm an attorney representing Ryan Mitchell. I'm calling to inform you that my client is filing a lawsuit against you for damages related to emotional distress, financial harm, and defamation. The words hit me like ice water. Excuse me. Mr. Mitchell claims that your actions in selling the Garden Oaks property caused severe emotional and financial harm to him and his then-wife Jessica. He's seeking $250,000 in damages, plus legal fees. I was so stunned I almost laughed. The property that was in my name, that I legally owned, that I had every right to sell. Mr. Mitchell claims you promised the property to him and his wife, that they made significant life decisions based on that promise, and that your sudden decision to sell constituted a verbal contract violation and caused foreseeable harm. This is insane. The property was mine. I gave them 30 days' notice as required by law. His emotional distress was caused by his own violence and his wife's decision to leave him, not by anything I did. I'm simply informing you of the lawsuit, Ms. Drummond. You'll be receiving formal paperwork within the week. I'd advise you to retain legal counsel. She hung up, and I sat there holding my phone, rage and disbelief warring in my chest. Ryan was suing me. After everything, after I'd saved him from loan sharks, paid his debts, given him a place to live, he was suing me. I immediately called Vernon. He answered on the second ring, and I could hear the fury in his voice when I told him what had happened. That ungrateful, manipulative son of a, he cut himself off. Sorry, Pat, but this is outrageous. He doesn't have a case. You owned that property free and clear. You gave appropriate notice. Everything was legal. But he's still suing. Which means legal fees, depositions, stress. He's trying to punish me, Vernon. He knows he probably can't win, but he can make my life hell trying. Then let's make his life hell right back. I know several excellent attorneys who would love this case. We'll countersue for frivolous litigation. We'll file a restraining order. We'll bury him in paperwork until he chokes on it. Vernon's protective anger made me smile despite everything. Let me think about it. Send me the names of those attorneys. But Vernon, I'm not coming back to Houston for this. Whatever we do, it has to be handled from here. Understood. But Pat, don't let him win by making you afraid. You didn't do anything wrong. You protected yourself from a violent, manipulative man. That's not a crime. That's survival. After we hung up, I sat on my patio and tried to breathe through the panic rising in my chest. This was exactly what Ryan wanted, to destabilize me, to drag me back into chaos, to punish me for refusing to be his victim anymore. But I was not the same woman he'd slapped 9 months ago. I was not the woman who fled Houston in fear and desperation. I was someone new now. Someone stronger. I called Jessica. She needed to know. His what? Her voice was shrill with disbelief. Mom, he can't do this. That's insane. That property was yours. He can do it. He's doing it. The question is how we respond. We destroy him, Jessica said immediately, her voice hard. We get the best lawyers money can buy and we destroy him in court. He doesn't get to do this to you. Not after everything you've done for us. Jessica, litigation takes time and energy and emotional bandwidth. I need to decide if he's worth all that, or if I just settle to make him go away. You're not seriously considering giving him money? I'm considering my peace. There's a difference. No. Absolutely not. Mom, if you give in to this, you're teaching him that bullying works. You're showing him that he can threaten and harass and get what he wants. You're telling every person like him that violent men can punish the women who dare to set boundaries. She was right, of course. But she was also safe in Houston while I was building a life in Costa Rica. This lawsuit would pull me back into the very chaos I'd escaped. Court dates. Depositions. Attorneys. The stress of it all. Let me think about it, I told her. I'll talk to some lawyers and figure out my options. But I already knew what I was going to do. Because Vernon was right, and Jessica was right, and more importantly, Dorothy's voice was in my head saying, *, you've come too far to let some small, petty man pull you backward. *. I was going to fight. Vernon sent me the names of 3 attorneys. I interviewed all of them via video call and chose a woman named Rebecca Torres, sharp, aggressive, and absolutely disgusted by Ryan's lawsuit. This is textbook vexatious litigation, she said during our first meeting. He's using the legal system to harass you because he lost control over you. But here's the good news, judges hate this kind of thing. And I love destroying men who think they can weaponize the courts. Rebecca filed a motion to dismiss based on the frivolousness of the claims. She also filed a countersuit for malicious prosecution. And she subpoenaed records of Ryan's gambling debts, his financial instability, and most damning, the police report from that Sunday at church. Yes, someone had filed one. Deacon Morris, it turned out, had called the police after I left, insisting they document what had happened. The legal process moved slowly, as these things do. But Rebecca kept me updated every step of the way. Ryan's attorney tried multiple times to depose me in Houston. Rebecca refused, insisting any deposition could be done via video conference since I was a resident of Costa Rica now. They tried to argue I was avoiding legal process. Rebecca countered that I was a 71-year-old woman living abroad and they could accommodate modern technology or withdraw the lawsuit. Throughout it all, I tried to maintain my peace. Some days were harder than others. Some days I wanted to fly back to Houston just to scream at Ryan about what a pathetic, vindictive man he was. But most days, I remembered who I was now and what I'd built, and I refused to let him take that from me. Dorothy returned from Minnesota in early March, and I told her everything over coffee at our usual spot. "He's scared," she said simply. "Men like that, when they lose power over you, they try to drag you back into their chaos because they can't stand that you're free. But Patricia, you're not in his chaos anymore. You're watching it from a distance. And that's everything." In April, almost exactly a year since the slap, Rebecca called with news. The judge threw out his case. Dismissed with prejudice, which means he can't refile. And she's awarded you attorney's fees. Ryan owes you $43,000. I sat down hard, my legs suddenly weak. He owes me money. For frivolous litigation and wasting the court's time. The judge was not impressed with his claims or his conduct. And Patricia, there's more. The judge included a note in her ruling explicitly stating that Mr. Mitchell's lawsuit appeared to be retaliatory harassment against a woman who had protected herself from his violence. That's part of the public record now. Anyone who looks up Ryan Mitchell will find that ruling. After we hung up, I walked down to the beach and just stood there, letting the waves roll over my feet, letting the enormousness of it sink in. I'd won. Not just the lawsuit, but something bigger. I'd proven to myself and to Ryan and to anyone watching that I couldn't be bullied back into submission. That night, I called all 3 of my children and told them the news. James cheered. Monica said, "That's my mom." And Jessica said, "I'm so proud of you. You fought back. You didn't let him win." "We didn't let him win," I corrected. "You supported me through this. You believed me. That mattered more than you know." After the calls, I opened my journal and wrote, April the 18th, 2025 1 year ago, Ryan slapped me in front of our church. I sold a house and fled to Costa Rica. I thought I was running away. I thought I was weak. But I wasn't running away. I was running toward something. Toward myself. Toward the life I deserved. Toward peace that no one could take from me. Ryan tried to punish me for choosing myself. He failed. The court system, often so unkind to women, especially older women, actually saw through his manipulation and ruled in my favor. But more important than the legal victory is this: I'm not the same woman he slapped. I'm not the woman who accepted disrespect because she thought that's what family required. I'm Patricia Drummond, 72 years old, living in paradise, surrounded by friends who love me for who I am, not for what I can give them. And I'm never going back to being small again. I closed the journal and looked out at the ocean, at the sunset painting the sky in impossible colors, at the life I'd built from the rubble of the one that had collapsed. This was my revenge. Not hurting Ryan or making him pay, though the $43,000 was satisfying, I'd donate it to the women's shelter where I volunteered. My revenge was this: living well. Living freely. Living as myself without apology. And there was no sweeter victory than that. By June 2025, I'd been in Costa Rica for 14 months. The villa had stopped feeling like a rental and started feeling like home. I'd bought furniture to replace Isabel's pieces, a comfortable reading chair, a better desk for my writing, artwork from local artists that spoke to me. I'd planted herbs in pots on the patio: basil, cilantro, mint. Small acts of permanence. My routine was established and cherished. Morning coffee watching the sunrise. Beach walks. Painting with Dorothy twice a week. Coffee with the women on Wednesdays. Volunteering at the shelter on Fridays. Video calls with my children on Sundays. A simple, intentional life that felt full without being overwhelming. Then Vernon called with unexpected news. "Pat, I need to talk to you about your Houston house. The one you've been living in for 40 years. I'd almost forgotten about it. After selling the rental properties and giving up my property management business, the house had sat empty, maintained by a service Vernon hired. I'd been paying property taxes and utilities on a place I had no intention of returning to, but I hadn't been able to make myself sell it. Some stubborn part of me wasn't ready to sever that final tie. "What about it?" I asked. "You've had an unsolicited offer. A developer wants to buy your property and the 3 adjacent lots to build townhomes. They're offering $2.3 million. I nearly dropped the phone. $2.3 million. The area has gotten hot in the last year. Young professionals moving in, coffee shops and boutiques opening. Your property is perfectly positioned. But Pat, this is a big decision. That house is full of memories. William's there. The kids grew up there. I don't want you to feel pressured." I walked out to my patio, phone still pressed to my ear, and looked at the ocean. The life I'd built here. The peace I'd found. The woman I'd become. "Accept the offer," I said. "Are you sure? Don't you want to go back one more time? Say goodbye? Pack up William's things. James and Monica can go if they want. Jessica too. They can take what they want, donate the rest. But Vernon, I'm not going back. That house represents a version of my life that's over. I don't need to say goodbye to it because I already have." "Okay. If you're certain." "I am. Sell it. And Vernon, take your commission from this one. You've been managing my affairs for over a year now with barely any compensation. You've earned it." The house sold quickly. My children went through it together and sent me pictures of what they were taking. James wanted William's tools and some furniture. Monica took family photo albums and my mother's china. Jessica took my recipe box and the quilt William's mother had made. "We're keeping the important things safe," Jessica texted. "The memories. The love. Everything else is just stuff." Smart girl. She was learning. The sale closed in July, and suddenly I had more money than I knew what to do with. I sat with Vernon on a video call and discussed my options. "You could buy property in Costa Rica," he suggested. "A permanent home instead of renting. Or invest it. Or donate large portions to charity. What do you want, Pat?" What did I want? That question would have paralyzed me 2 years ago. Now, the answer came easily. I want to buy a house here. Something small, manageable, with an ocean view. I want to set up a foundation that provides financial literacy education to women leaving abusive relationships, both here in Costa Rica and in Texas. And I want to make sure my kids are taken care of if something happens to me. Beyond that, I just want to live simply and help people when I can. That sounds perfect. I'll make it happen. Within a month, I'd purchased a small house 10 minutes from my old villa, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a covered patio overlooking the ocean, and a small garden where I could grow vegetables. It was perfect. Isabel helped me move, and my expat friends threw me a housewarming party where we drank too much wine and laughed until we cried. "You're officially a resident now," Dorothy said, toasting with her glass. "No more renting. No more temporary. You're home." Home. Yes. This was home now, in a way Houston had never really been. Or maybe Houston had been home once, but I'd outgrown it the way children outgrow childhood bedrooms. The foundation took longer to establish, but by September, the Patricia Drummond Women's Empowerment Foundation was official. Vernon handled the US side, and I found a local lawyer to handle the Costa Rican side. We started small, offering free financial literacy workshops to women at the shelter where I volunteered, then expanding to community centers, then to online courses that women anywhere could access. Jessica called me after seeing the foundation's website. "Mom, this is incredible. You're helping so many people." "I'm helping the people I wish had helped me 40 years ago," I said honestly. "Women who think they have to stay in bad situations because they don't understand money or don't believe they can survive on their own. If I can show even one woman that it's possible to start over at any age, it'll be worth it. You've shown me that, Jessica said quietly. You know that, right? Watching you rebuild your life has given me the courage to rebuild mine. We'd talked less frequently over the past few months, and I'd worried that meant we were drifting apart. But now I understood. She'd been busy building her own life, the way I'd been building mine. She'd gotten a new teaching position at a better school. She'd bought a small condo with money from the divorce settlement. She was dating someone new, taking it slow, learning what healthy love looked like. I'm proud of you, sweetheart, I said. You're doing the work. That's the hardest part. In October, I got an email that surprised me. It was from Covenant Grace Church, not from Pastor Elkins this time, but from the church board. Dear Patricia *. We hope this email finds you well. It has been brought to our attention that you have established a foundation to help women in crisis. Several of our members have expressed interest in supporting this work. We would like to invite you to speak at our church about your foundation and your journey. We understand this may be difficult given the circumstances of your departure, but we believe your story could help many women in our congregation who may be struggling silently. If you're not comfortable speaking in person, we would be happy to host you via video conference. We hope you'll consider this invitation. In fellowship. The Covenant Grace Church Board. I stared at that email for a long time. They wanted me to come back. To speak in the very sanctuary where I'd been humiliated. To stand in front of the same congregation that had watched Ryan slap me and done nothing to stop it immediately. My first instinct was to refuse. Why would I subject myself to that? Why would I return to the scene of my trauma? But then I thought about the women in that congregation. The ones who were being controlled, diminished, abused. The ones who thought they had to endure because that's what good Christian women do. The ones who needed to see that it was possible to leave, to survive, to thrive. I called Dorothy for advice. It's your choice, she said. No one can tell you whether you should go back. But I'll say this, sometimes returning to the place where you were broken and showing people that you're whole now, that's powerful. Not for them. For you. I sat with the decision for 3 days. Then I replied. I'll speak via video conference in November. Send me the details. The date was set for November 10, 2025. 18 months after the slap that changed everything. The church set up a large screen in the sanctuary, and I would appear from my home in Costa Rica, an ocean away from the life I'd left behind. The night before the talk, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what I'd say, how I'd say it, whether I'd be able to face that sanctuary, even virtually, without falling apart. But when the time came, when I saw my face projected onto that screen and saw the congregation looking back at me, I felt something unexpected. Nothing. No fear. No anger. No hurt. Just distance. They were part of my past, and my past couldn't touch me anymore. I spoke for 30 minutes. I told them about building a life on other people's expectations. About sacrificing myself for family and believing that was love. About being slapped and having that moment of violence shock me into clarity. About selling the house and leaving the country not out of spite, but out of survival. I told them about finding peace in Costa Rica. About learning to prioritize my own well-being. About building a foundation to help other women do the same. I told them about my daughter's suicide attempt and my decision to come back briefly but then return to my new life, and how that didn't make me a bad mother, it made me a whole person. I'm not telling you to leave your families or your lives, I said, looking into the camera. I'm telling you that you're allowed to have boundaries. You're allowed to protect yourself. You're allowed to choose peace over obligation. And if anyone, family, spouse, friend, tells you that's selfish, I want you to ask yourself, who benefits from my selflessness? Who profits when I make myself small? When I finished, there was silence in the sanctuary. Then, slowly, people started standing. One by one, then in clusters, until the entire congregation was on their feet, applauding. I could see tears on faces. I could see women nodding, recognition in their eyes. Pastor Elkins stepped to the microphone. Thank you, Patricia. Your courage, then and now, is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. We're honored you shared your story with us. After the video call ended, I sat on my patio in the gathering dusk and felt something settle inside me. I'd gone back, virtually, to the place where I'd been humiliated. And I'd stood before them whole, healed, and free. That night, my email inbox filled with messages from women in the congregation, sharing their own stories, asking for advice, thanking me for giving them permission to consider their own needs. One message made me cry. Dear Mrs. Drummond, I've been married for 23 years to a man who belittles me daily. I've stayed because I thought that's what God wanted. But watching you speak today, I realized God doesn't want me to suffer. He wants me to thrive. Thank you for showing me what courage looks like. I'm filing for divorce next week. Anonymous *. I responded to every email. I shared resources from my foundation. I connected women with therapists, lawyers, support groups. And I realized this reaching back to help others climb out of the darkness I'd escaped, this was the final piece of my healing. Over the next month, donations to my foundation tripled. Women from all over the country started reaching out, wanting to tell their stories, wanting help, wanting to know how I'd done it. The foundation grew beyond anything I'd imagined. By December, I'd hired 2 full-time staff members, one in Texas, one in Costa Rica, to help manage the programs. We were offering workshops in 6 cities and had plans to expand. What had started as my personal rebellion had become something bigger than me. Christmas 2025 was different than the year before. All 3 of my children came to Costa Rica this time. James brought his wife and the twins. Monica came alone but brought her new boyfriend, a Costa Rican doctor she'd met while researching nursing positions. And Jessica came with her new partner, a gentle high school counselor named David who looked at her like she was precious. We rented a large house on the beach for the week, and it was chaos, the good kind. Kids running in and out, sand everywhere, meals that took hours because everyone was talking and laughing and no one wanted to leave the table. On Christmas Eve, after the kids were in bed, my 3 children and I sat on the beach with a bottle of wine and a fire burning in a pit James had dug. I want to say something, Jessica said, looking at me across the flames. A year ago, you invited me here and showed me your life. It changed everything for me. I went back to Houston knowing that I could be okay on my own. That I didn't need Ryan or anyone else to define me. You taught me that, Mom. By example. You're welcome here anytime, I said. All of you. This is my home, but it's your home too when you need it to be. Actually, Monica said, I have news. I've accepted a position at a hospital in San Jose. I'm moving to Costa Rica in February. I gasped. Monica. Really? Really? You showed me it was possible to just pick up and start over. To choose the life you want instead of the life everyone expects you to live. So I'm choosing this. Near you. Near the ocean. Near possibility. James laughed. Don't look at me. I'm staying in Oregon. But I'm bringing the family down here every summer. If that's okay. More than okay, I said, my voice thick with emotion. This is what I wanted. Not for you all to abandon your lives, but for you to build lives you actually want to live. And to know that wherever I am, wherever you are, we're still family. Just a healthier, more honest version of it. We sat there as the fire burned down, as the stars came out in their thousands, as the ocean whispered its constant secrets. My children, all grown, all finding their own paths, all okay despite the chaos and pain of the past 2 years. I thought about the woman I'd been. The woman who got slapped in church. The woman who ran away. The woman who thought she'd destroyed her family by choosing herself. But I hadn't destroyed anything. I'd rebuilt it. Stronger. Better. More real. And that was worth everything. By March 2026, my life had found a rhythm I never wanted to disrupt. Monica had moved to Costa Rica and was renting a small apartment in San Jose, coming to visit every other weekend. She joined Dorothy and me for painting sessions on the beach, her terrible attempts at art making us laugh until we cried. James video called every Sunday with his boys, who'd started calling me abuela even though that was Spanish and they lived in Oregon and it made no grammatical sense, but they loved it, so I loved it. Jessica had become my most frequent visitor, flying down every 6 weeks or so for long weekends. She and David had gotten engaged in February, and she'd asked if they could get married on the beach in Costa Rica in June. I'd said yes without hesitation. The foundation had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. We'd helped 300 women leave abusive situations, offering financial counseling, job placement assistance, and connections to legal resources. I'd hired Vernon part-time to help manage the financial side, and he'd never been happier, telling me that helping women escape financial abuse was the most rewarding work of his career. One morning in early April, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. Usually I let those go to voicemail, but something made me answer. Mrs. Drummond. A young woman's voice, hesitant. My name is Amanda. I was married to Ryan Mitchell. My blood went cold. We got divorced last month. I just found out there was someone before me. That he'd been married to your daughter. And I found the court ruling online, about how he sued you and lost. Mrs. Drummond, I need to tell you something. I need someone to know. I'm listening. For the next hour, Amanda told me her story. She'd met Ryan 2 months after his divorce from Jessica was finalized. He'd been charming, attentive, seemingly perfect. They'd married quickly, too quickly, she realized now. Within 6 months, the gambling had started again. The emotional abuse. The manipulation. She'd stayed for a year before finally leaving, and even then, he'd tried to control her through threats and lawsuits, just like he tried with me. But I read about you, Amanda said. I read about how you fought back. How you didn't let him win. And it gave me the courage to keep fighting too. I wanted to thank you. And I wanted to warn you, he's not done yet. He's still angry at you for ruining his life. Those are his words. He blames you for everything that's gone wrong since you sold that house. Thank you for telling me, I said carefully. But Amanda, I'm not afraid of Ryan anymore. He can blame me all he wants. His life is ruined because of his own choices, not mine. I know that now. But it took me a long time to see it. I wanted you to be careful. He's not stable, Mrs. Drummond. I think he might do something. After we hung up, I sat with that warning. Should I be worried? Should I get security? Should I tell someone? But then I looked around at my life. I was 72 years old, living in a different country, surrounded by people who loved me, running a foundation that helped women every day. Ryan Mitchell was a ghost from a past I'd left behind. He had no power over me anymore. Still, I called Vernon and told him about the conversation. He took it more seriously than I did. Pat, I'm going to hire a security consultant to do a threat assessment. Just in case. You don't need to be paranoid, but you should be prepared. I agreed, more to ease his mind than mine. The security consultant reviewed everything, Ryan's history, his current situation, his patterns of behavior. The conclusion was that while Ryan was angry and potentially unstable, he was unlikely to physically harm me. More likely, he'd continue trying to hurt me through litigation, social media, or other indirect means. The best protection, the consultant said, is the distance you've already put between yourself and him. Stay where you are. Keep your address private. Don't engage with him or respond to any attempts at contact. Live your life and let him fade into irrelevance. That's exactly what I did. Jessica's wedding in June was perfect. A small ceremony on the beach at sunset, maybe 30 people, most of them friends I'd made in Costa Rica. Dorothy officiated. She'd gotten ordained online specifically for the occasion. James walked Jessica down the aisle, which felt right since I was already standing at the front as mother of the bride. David's vows made everyone cry. Jessica, you've taught me that strength looks like vulnerability. That healing is possible at any age. That love is choosing someone every day, not trapping them. I choose you. Every day. For the rest of our lives. Jessica's vows were simpler. David, you see me. Really see me. Not who I was or who I should be, but who I am right now, in this moment. Thank you for that gift. Thank you for choosing me back. At the reception, Monica gave a toast that made me proud, to my sister and her new husband. May your marriage be built on respect, honesty, and the courage to be yourself. And to my mother, who taught us all that it's never too late to start over, to choose yourself, to demand the life you deserve. This wedding is happening on this beach because you had the courage to leave everything behind and build something new. We're all better people because of that choice. Everyone raised their glasses to me, and I felt tears running down my face. Happy tears this time, grateful tears. After the reception, after everyone had left, I stood on the beach alone and looked up at the stars. William, if you can hear me, I thought, we did okay with these kids. They're finding their way. They're going to be all right. I could almost hear him laughing, saying, of course they are. They're our kids. They're survivors. July and August passed in a blur of summer activities. I started teaching painting classes at a local community center. I took Spanish lessons to improve my still imperfect grammar. I started writing a book about my experiences, thinking maybe it could help other women see that leaving wasn't failure, it was courage. In September, I received another unexpected email, this one from someone who'd been at the church the day Ryan slapped me. Her name was Ellen Morrison, and she'd been sitting 3 pews behind us. Dear Patricia, I've thought about you nearly every day since that terrible Sunday in April 2024. I've wanted to reach out 100 times but didn't know what to say. That day changed my life too. Not as dramatically as it changed yours, but significantly. You see, I was in an emotionally abusive marriage. My husband never hit me, but he controlled everything, my money, my friends, my time. I'd been married for 37 years, and I thought that was just how marriage was. But watching you walk out of that church with your head high, watching you choose yourself in the aftermath, it was like someone turned on a light in a room I'd been sitting in darkness for decades. I thought, if she can do it at 71, I can do it at 64. I left my husband that summer. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But Patricia, I'm happy now. Really, genuinely happy. I have my own apartment. I manage my own money. I see my friends when I want. I wake up every morning without that knot of anxiety in my stomach wondering what mood he'll be in. I just wanted you to know that your courage rippled out farther than you could possibly imagine. You didn't just save yourself that day. You showed dozens of us watching that it was possible to save ourselves too. Thank you. Thank you for walking out. Thank you for not coming back. Thank you for choosing yourself. With deep gratitude. Ellen Morrison. I read that email 3 times, then I sat on my patio and cried. Not sad tears. Not happy tears exactly. Something bigger. Tears of recognition that my pain had purpose. That my choice to leave had been a catalyst for other women's freedom. That the worst moment of my life had somehow created permission for others to escape their own worst moments. I responded to Ellen, and we began a correspondence that eventually turned into friendship. She visited Costa Rica in October, and we spent a week together talking about our marriages, our escapes, our new lives. She was planning to volunteer with my foundation, offering support to newly divorced women navigating their first year of independence. You've built something beautiful here, she said on her last night, sitting on my patio watching the sunset. Not just the foundation. This life. This peace. You've built proof that it's possible. We all did, I said. Every woman who chose herself, who walked away from what was killing her, who rebuilt from scratch, we're all building the same thing. Evidence that we're stronger than we knew. Proof that it's never too late. In November, I received a letter, an actual physical letter, not an email, forwarded from my old Houston address. The handwriting was shaky, the envelope coffee-stained. I almost threw it away without opening it, but curiosity won. Inside was a single page, handwritten, dated 2 days prior. Patricia, I'm writing this because my therapist says I need to take accountability for my actions. So here it is, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for hitting you. I'm sorry for suing you. I'm sorry for being a terrible son-in-law and an even worse husband to your daughter. I'm sorry for every cruel thing I said and did. I've lost everything. My career, my reputation, 2 marriages, my self-respect. I'm in a halfway house now, working through court-mandated therapy for anger issues and gambling addiction. I'm broke, alone, and facing the reality that I destroyed every good thing in my life through my own choices. You were right about me all along. Jessica was right to leave. Everyone was right, and I was wrong. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I finally see what I was. What I did. How much damage I caused. I heard about your foundation. I heard you're helping women leave situations like the one I created. That's more grace than I deserve. You could have disappeared and lived your life in peace. Instead, you're using what I did to you to help others. That's the difference between us, I guess. You took pain and turned it into purpose. I took every gift I was given and turned it into ash. I'm not asking for anything. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. Not even a response. I just needed you to know that I know. I know what I did. I know what I cost you. And I'm sorry. Asterisk. Asterisk Ryan asterisk. I read the letter twice, then set it down on my patio table and stared at the ocean. I felt nothing. Or not nothing. I felt a distant kind of pity for the man who'd written it. But no anger. No vindication. No satisfaction. Just a quiet acknowledgement that he'd finally arrived at a truth I'd known for years. He was his own worst enemy. I didn't respond to the letter. There was nothing to say. His apology, while seemingly sincere, was about his healing, not mine. I'd already healed without it. I didn't need his accountability to feel whole. Instead, I filed the letter away in a drawer and went back to my life. Because that was the thing, I had a life now. A real, full, beautiful life that had nothing to do with Ryan Mitchell or what he'd done to me. He was a footnote in my story, not the main character. And that was exactly how it should be. December arrived with its annual migration of my children. This time, they all stayed for 2 weeks, and we rented an even bigger house to accommodate everyone. James's twins were now 6 and obsessed with the beach, building elaborate sandcastles and shrieking with joy when waves knocked them down. Jessica and David announced they were expecting a baby in July. My first grandchild from Jessica. Monica brought her boyfriend again, and this time he proposed on Christmas Eve, right on the beach, with all of us watching. I want what you have, Monica told me later that night, when it was just the two of us on the patio, the rest of the family asleep. Not the specific house or the specific life. But that peace. That sense of being completely yourself without apology. How did you find it, Mom? I stopped waiting for permission, I said. I stopped believing that I needed everyone's approval before I could choose myself. I stopped thinking that being a good mother, a good woman, meant sacrificing every part of myself on the altar of other people's comfort. And I started believing that my peace mattered as much as anyone else's. That sounds so simple. It is simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. The guilt was enormous at first. The fear that I was being selfish, that I was abandoning my family, that I was failing at the one job women are told matters most, taking care of everyone else. But eventually I realized that taking care of everyone else had nearly killed me. And if I died trying to make everyone happy, I'd be no good to anyone. Monica nodded, turning her new engagement ring on her finger. I don't want to wait until I'm 71 to figure that out. Then don't. Start now. Build the life you want. Set boundaries. Disappoint people when you need to. Prioritize your peace. It gets easier with practice, I promise. You're not scared anymore, are you? About anything? I thought about that. Was I scared? Of death, certainly. That was coming sooner rather than later at my age. But of life? Of people's opinions? Of being alone? Of being too much or not enough? No, I said honestly. I'm not scared anymore. Or at least, fear doesn't control me anymore. I'm too old and too tired to live in fear. I'd rather live in peace and die early than live in fear and die on time. Monica laughed. That's very dramatic, Mom. I'm 72. I've earned the right to be dramatic. We sat there together in comfortable silence, and I thought about how far we'd all come. My children were building lives they wanted instead of lives they thought they should want. They were learning from my mistakes and my courage in equal measure. And they were going to be okay. Better than okay. On New Year's Eve, we all gathered on the beach at midnight. The local town was setting off fireworks over the ocean, and the sky exploded with color while the waves crashed below. James and his wife held their boys. Jessica leaned against David, one hand on her still flat belly. Monica and her fiancé stood with their arms around each other, planning a life they'd build together in this country I'd made home. And I stood alone, not lonely, just alone, watching my family and feeling a fullness I'd never experienced in Houston, even during the good years. Because this fullness wasn't about me being what everyone needed. It was about all of us being authentically ourselves, together, without performance or pretense. As the fireworks reached their crescendo, Jessica came to stand beside me. She took my hand and squeezed it. You did this, Mom, she said quietly. You created this. Not just by leaving, but by showing us what it looks like to choose yourself without guilt. To love your family without sacrificing your soul. To be strong enough to walk away and brave enough to let us back in when we were ready. You did this. We did this, I corrected. I left, but you grew. You chose to understand instead of staying angry. You chose healing over resentment. That took as much courage as anything I did. Maybe we can both be brave, she said. Maybe we can. The fireworks ended. The crowd dispersed. My family went back to the house for champagne and leftovers, but I stayed on the beach a little longer, alone with the ocean and the stars and the profound satisfaction of a life well lived. I was 72 years old. I'd been slapped in church, sold a house in revenge, fled to another country, fought a lawsuit, built a foundation, and rebuilt my entire identity from scratch. I'd lost a version of myself and found a better one. I'd disappointed people and liberated myself. I'd been called selfish and learned that sometimes selfish is another word for survival. And I'd do it all again. Every painful, terrifying, beautiful moment of it. Because this life, standing on this beach in this country with these people who'd learned to love me as I actually was instead of who they needed me to be, this was worth every sacrifice, every judgment, every moment of doubt. I walked back to the house, back to my family, back to the life I'd built from the ashes of the one that burned down. And I was happy. Completely, authentically, unapologetically happy. And that was my revenge. That was my victory. That was everything. It's March 2027 now, and I'm sitting on my patio watching the sun rise over the Pacific Ocean for the 1000th time, and it still takes my breath away. I'm 73 years old, and I've been living in Costa Rica for 3 years. 3 years that feel both like a lifetime and like yesterday. Some mornings I still wake up expecting to be in Houston, expecting to hear the phone ringing with some crisis that needs my attention, some problem that only I can solve. But then I hear the ocean and smell the salt air and remember, that life is over. This is my life now. Jessica had her baby in July, a girl named Lily Patricia, after both of us. I flew to Houston for the birth, stayed 2 weeks helping, then came back to Costa Rica. It was the first time I'd been back since April 2024, and Houston felt like a foreign country. Too fast, too loud, too full of old ghosts. I was grateful to leave. Now Jessica brings Lily to visit every few months, and my granddaughter will grow up thinking of Costa Rica as Abuela's house, the magical place with the beach and the sunshine and the grandmother who paints terrible pictures and doesn't follow any rules. Monica got married in January on the same beach where Jessica got married, and she's now pregnant with her first child, due in September. She's still working as a nurse in San Jose, and she and her husband have bought a house 20 minutes from mine. She comes for dinner every Tuesday, and we cook together and talk about everything and nothing. She tells me about difficult patients and bureaucratic frustrations, and I tell her about the Foundation's latest success stories and my ongoing battle with Spanish verb conjugation. James and his family came for 3 weeks in February, and his boys are now obsessed with surfing. They're begging their parents to move to Costa Rica too, though I don't think that'll happen. James loves his job in Oregon, and his wife's family is there. But they'll visit, and that's enough. That's more than enough. The Foundation has grown beyond anything I imagined. We've helped over 1,000 women in 3 years. We've opened 3 physical locations, one in Houston, one in San Jose, one in Miami, and we offer virtual services to women anywhere in the world. We've partnered with domestic violence organizations, legal aid societies, job training programs. We've helped women escape, heal, rebuild, and thrive. Last month, one of our success stories came to visit me. Her name was Carmen, and 3 years ago she'd been living in her car with 2 kids after leaving an abusive marriage with nothing but the clothes on their backs. The Foundation had helped her find housing, get job training, navigate the legal system. Now she was a certified accountant making 6 figures, her kids were thriving in good schools, and she'd bought a house, a real house that she owned, that no one could take from her. I wanted you to see what you made possible, she told me, showing me pictures of her house, her kids, her new life. Every time I wanted to give up, I thought about your story. About how you were 71 when you started over. And I thought, if she can do it, I can do it. You saved my life, Patricia. No, I said. You saved your own life. I just showed you it was possible. But the truth is, we save each other. Every woman who chooses herself creates permission for another woman to do the same. Every act of courage ripples outward in ways we'll never fully see or understand. Dorothy is still my closest friend here. We paint together 3 times a week now, and her work is beautiful while mine is still gloriously mediocre. But we laugh, and we talk about everything, and sometimes we just sit in comfortable silence while we work. She's 78 now, and sometimes she talks about how much longer she'll be able to stay in Costa Rica, whether she'll need to go back to the States eventually for healthcare or age-related concerns. But not yet, she always says. I still have paintings to paint and sunsets to see and wine to drink with friends. I'm not done yet. None of us are done yet. That's what I've learned. As long as we're breathing, we're not done. We can still grow, still change, still choose differently. Age is just a number, and it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. I finished writing my book in December. It's being published in May, a memoir called The Slap That Set Me Free. My editor wanted a catchier title, something more commercial, but I insisted on the truth. That's what this whole journey has been about, truth. The truth about what I endured, the truth about what I chose, the truth about what freedom costs and why it's worth every penny. Jessica wrote the foreword. In it, she talks about watching her mother become a person instead of just a role. About learning that loving someone doesn't mean accepting their abuse or enabling their dysfunction. About the courage it takes to disappoint people you love in service of honoring yourself. My mother taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is leave, she wrote. Not because you hate the people you're leaving, but because staying is killing you, and you can't love anyone well from the grave. The book's advance was substantial, and I donated all of it to the foundation. I don't need the money, I have more than enough. What I need is to know that my story might help even one more woman find her courage, take her leap, save her own life. I think about Ryan sometimes. Not often, and never for long. I heard through Vernon that he's still in recovery, working a regular job, living a quiet life. I don't wish him ill. I don't wish him anything, really. He's irrelevant to my story now except as the catalyst that started everything. The match that lit the fire that burned down my old life and cleared the ground for this new one. I've been asked if I forgive him. It's a question people love to ask, as if forgiveness is the pinnacle of healing, the final box to check on the journey from victim to victor. But I don't think forgiveness works that way. I don't actively hold anger toward Ryan, but I don't actively forgive him either. I've simply moved on. He exists in my past, and my present is too full and too beautiful to spend time relitigating history. The church still emails occasionally, asking if I'll speak again, if I'll come back and share updates. I've declined most invitations, but I said yes to one coming up in April 14, 2027, exactly 3 years since the slap. They're organizing a special service about healing from trauma, and they want me to be the keynote speaker. This time I said I'd come in person. It's a risk, going back to that sanctuary, standing in that space where I was humiliated and hurt. But I want to do it. I want to stand in that pulpit, because yes, they're letting me speak from the pulpit this time, and show everyone who was there that day that I'm not just surviving. I'm thriving. And I want to speak directly to the women who are sitting in those pews right now, enduring what they think they have to endure, accepting what they think they have to accept. I want to look them in the eye and tell them, you don't have to stay. There is life after leaving. There is peace after chaos. There is joy after pain. I've been practicing my speech. It starts like this. 3 years ago, I stood in this sanctuary and got slapped across the face by my son-in-law. Some of you were here. You saw it happen. You heard the sound of his hand connecting with my cheek. You watched me walk out of this building with blood on my face and my head held high. Today I'm standing here again, but I'm standing in a different body. Not because I'm 3 years older, though I am, but because I'm 3 years freer. 3 years braver. 3 years more myself. I want to tell you what happened after I walked out that day. I want to tell you about the choice I made, to sell a house, to leave a country, to disappoint my children, to prioritize my peace over everyone's comfort. And I want to tell you why it was the best decision I ever made. I'll tell them everything. The good, the bad, the terrifying, the beautiful. I'll tell them about Jessica's suicide attempt and my decision to come back but not to stay. About the lawsuit and the victory. About building a foundation from the wreckage of my old life. About finding peace in paradise and learning that paradise isn't a place, it's a state of mind that comes from living authentically. And then I'll look out at that congregation, at those women who might be suffering in silence, and I'll say, if you're in a situation that's slowly killing you, you have my permission to leave. Not that you need my permission, you only need your own. But if hearing someone say it out loud helps, then hear it, you can leave. You can start over. You can choose yourself. And anyone who calls you selfish for it is probably someone who was benefiting from your selflessness. You are not too old. It's not too late. You're not too broke, too scared, too entangled. Yes, it will be hard. Yes, you'll disappoint people. Yes, there will be guilt and fear and uncertainty. But on the other side of all that is a life that belongs to you. A life you designed. A life you want to wake up to every morning. I'm 73 years old. I started over at 71. If I can do it, anyone can do it. The question isn't whether you can, it's whether you will. Whether you'll love yourself enough to choose yourself. Whether you'll believe you deserve peace. That's what I'll tell them. And then I'll walk out of that sanctuary one more time. But this time, I'll walk out whole. Healed. Free. Proof that it's possible. After the speech, I'll fly back to Costa Rica. Back to my house with the ocean view. Back to my friends who love me. Back to my foundation that's changing lives. Back to my simple, intentional, beautiful life that I built from nothing. And I'll sit on my patio and watch the sunset, and I'll think about the journey that brought me here. From Houston housewife to Costa Rican expat. From doormat to boundary setter. From woman who accepted disrespect to woman who demands better. It's been 3 years since the slap that changed everything. 3 years since I sold a house in revenge and disappeared to paradise. 3 years since I chose myself over obligation. And you know what? I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because this life, this peaceful, purposeful, authentic life, this is what I was always meant to find. I just had to be 71 years old and get slapped in church to finally go looking for it. So to everyone reading this, everyone hearing my story, everyone standing at the edge of their own cliff wondering if they have the courage to jump. You do. You absolutely do. And the landing is softer than you think. And the view from the other side is spectacular. Choose yourself. Disappoint people. Set boundaries. Walk away from what's killing you. Build something new. And don't you dare feel guilty about it. You're not being selfish. You're being smart. You're not running away. You're running toward something better. You're not giving up. You're starting over. And starting over might be the bravest thing you ever do. I'm 73 years old, and I'm sitting on a patio in Costa Rica watching the sun paint the sky in impossible colors, and I'm happier than I've ever been in my entire life. That's my revenge. That's my victory. That's my legacy. I chose myself. And it saved my life. Now it's your turn. Asterisk if you've been moved by Patricia's story, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. Are you in a situation where you need to hear that it's okay to choose yourself? Are you on the other side of your own transformation? Share your story. Your courage might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Asterisk. Asterisk and please, check the description box below for more stories like this one. Stories of women who refused to disappear. Stories of courage, revenge, and transformation. Stories that remind us it's never too late to start over. Asterisk. Asterisk thank you for listening to Patricia's journey. Thank you for believing that peace is possible. Thank you for being here. Asterisk. Asterisk remember, you're not too old. It's not too late. You deserve peace. Choose yourself. Asterisk.